hampering growth and evolution. I wonder, ladies and gentlemen, how the world, according to the opposition, needs religion when religion itself is the cause of many disputes and upheavals of present and past times. Does religion brings people closer as much as it divides them? Does the good in religion negates the bad? And is religion not a form of escapism? With these questions for the opposition to ponder, I would now rest my case. Thank you. Also, I think there was some problem between my when I was delivering. Did the OC said something? I'm sorry, I was not able to get it.
No, Tanisha. That was because some participant turned on their mic.
Oh, all right.
Now I request slot number 13 for the interjection.
Hello, ma'am. I would like to ask you that what will happen without religion, because religion is a bigger form of spirituality, and without spirituality, I think we can't realize who we truly are, our actual sense. And I think because meditation is also a part of religion. So don't you believe in spirituality and things like that?
All right. So, with due permission of the chair, I would like to answer that. First of all, ma'am, I think religion and spirituality are two different things, and not they do not form. They are not the part of the same river. Secondly, I think hope, belief are fine, but there are people in the world who do find purpose, who are living without believing in God. We have examples like Bill Gates, Elon Musk, and many other people who suffer the ups and downs of life. They see miracles and death in their life. They witness success and death. But without religion, they are able to go on with their life. Hence, it marks a very important question on the usefulness of religion. If an atheist person also lives the same way as a religious one do, then hence it's proved that that the world does not certainly need religion. Thank you.
The participant speaking against the motion can now start speaking.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
And if you can please tell me I'm visible or not.
I can't see you.
Now, if you can see me.
No, you are not visible, Manisha.
But I have turned my camera on. Can I have just 10 seconds to check the problem, please?
Yes, go ahead.
Am I visible?
No, Manisha, you are not.
Is it?
Manisha, what are the issues you are facing?
I do not know. I have turned my video on, but you are telling that you are not able to see me.
You can start without turning on your video if the
If you
problem
can
still persists.
give me just one more minute to check what's the problem.
Manisha, please begin without turning on your camera.
Now also I'm not visible, right?
No, please continue without the camera.
If you
Manisha, are you there?
Yeah, if you can please allow me to say it last.
Okay, we can move ahead.
Okay, thank you so much.
Now I would like to request slot number 25, Priya Samanta and Rupa Danwal. I request the participants speaking for the motion to take the virtual stage. Priya, are you there in the meeting?
हाँ जी मैं मीटिंग में हूँ बट फॉर्म में मेरी फ्रेंड यानी कि रूपा डंगवाल बोलने वाली है तो फिर मैं एक बार उसे ना 2 मिनट में मैसेज या कॉल कर देती हूँ 1 मिनट
Rupa, you are on the mute. Rupa, we can see you, but we can't hear you. Rupa, you have exactly 1 minute to fix your problem.
I hope I'm visible and audible now.
Yes, you are.
Okay, perfect. ओके सो नमस्कार मैं रूपा डंगवाल हूँ मैं स्लॉट नंबर 25 हूँ और सदन पटल पर रखे गए विषय यह सदन बर्लिन की दीवार का पुनर्निर्माण करेगा के पक्ष पर मैं अपने विचार प्रस्तुत करने जा रही हूँ आप 3 2 1 की गिनती के साथ मेरा टाइमर शुरू कर दीजिएगा 3 2 1 1990 में भले ही बर्लिन की दीवार ध्वस्त हो गई हो एवं पूर्वी एवं पश्चिमी बर्लिन का एकीकरण हो गया हो, परंतु उसके 3 दशक के पश्चात भी पूर्वी एवं पश्चिमी बर्लिन के लोगों के मध्यस्थ उनकी विचारधारा, आर्थिक सामाजिक स्थिति से उपजी असमानताएं और अंतर दीवार के रूप में खड़ी है। आज भी बर्लिन के लोगों की भावनाएं पूर्वी एवं पश्चिमी बर्लिन से जुड़ी हुई है और उसका एक मुख्य कारण है आर्थिक स्थिति का बड़ा अंतर। पूर्वी बर्लिन की आर्थिक स्थिति पश्चिमी बर्लिन की आर्थिक स्थिति की अपेक्षाकृत काफी कमजोर है। पूर्वी बर्लिन में बेरोजगारी अधिक व्याप्त है, वहां वेतन की भी काफी कमी है। ऐसा लगता है मानो दोनों एक ही शहर में दो अलग अलग दुनिया हो, और यही कारण है जिससे वहां वरीयता एवं जघन्यता की स्थिति उपजती है। बेहतर अवसर के कारण पिछले कुछ दशकों से भारी मात्रा में स्थानांतरण पूर्वी बर्लिन से पश्चिमी बर्लिन में देखा जा रहा है, जो एक द्वेष का मुद्दा बना है। पश्चिमी बर्लिन के लोगों के अनुसार यह उनकी भूमि, पर्यावरण, आर्थिक स्थिति, संसाधनों पर दबाव बनाए हुए हैं। इस मतभेद का दूसरा कारण यह है कि बर्लिन के एकीकरण के पश्चात पूर्वी बर्लिन के विकास के लिए जो वित्तीय सहायता एवं संसाधनों का विभाजन हुआ, उससे कई पश्चिमी बर्लिन के लोगों के अनुसार के मानसिकता में उसने प्रतीकात्मक भावना को उपजा है। पश्चिमी बर्लिन के लोगों के अनुसार पूर्वी बर्लिन का सब कुछ उनकी देन है, अतः वह सारे संसाधनों के पहले स्वामी होते हैं, और यही सब द्वेष और मतभेद की भावनाओं को वहां उपज दे रहा है। और स्थिति ऐसी बनी हुई है कि 57% पूर्वी बर्लिन लोगों के अनुसार उन्हें अपने ही देश में दूसरे श्रेणी के नागरिकों का बर्ताव होता है, सहना पड़ता है। अतः द्वेष और मतभेद को रोकने के लिए, भविष्य में इससे उपजी हिंसा को रोकने के लिए, सामाजिक सौहार्द के लिए तथा प्रतिभा का पलायन को रोकने के लिए बर्लिन की दीवार का पुनः निर्माण करना चाहिए, और ऐसा करने से बर्लिन के लोगों की भावना का सम्मान होगा। धन्यवाद।
I request slot number 17 for the interjection.
जी धन्यवाद। मुझे उम्मीद है कि मैं आपको श्रव्य हूँ। महोदय, पहली बात तो बर्लिन एक देश नहीं, एक शहर है। दूसरी बात, आपने अपनी वक्तव्य में कहा कि पूर्वी बर्लिन में आज भी बेरोजगारी एवं भुखमरी की समस्या है। तो महोदय, क्या आप यह कहना चाहते हैं कि बर्लिन की दीवार बनाकर आप पूर्वी बर्लिन जो अभी भी बदतर है, उसको और बदतर बनाना चाहती है?
सबसे पहले तो मैं ये कहना चाहूंगी कि मैंने ये कभी नहीं कहा कि बर्लिन एक देश है। मैंने अपने वक्तव्य में भी कहा था कि एक ही शहर में ऐसा मानो कि दो दुनिया के जैसा लगता है, और मैंने ये कभी नहीं कहा बर्लिन में भुखमरी और बेरोजगारी व्याप्त है। मैंने कहा कि पूर्वी बर्लिन में पश्चिमी बर्लिन की अपेक्षाकृत बेरोजगारी ज्यादा है, कि अपेक्षाकृत वहां का वेतन कम है, वहां आर्थिक मतभेद है कि अपेक्षाकृत। और दूसरा, मैंने यह कहा कि यह दीवार इसलिए होनी चाहिए कि वहां मतभेद ना हो, वहां हिंसा की स्थिति ना उपजे, और अगर हम चाहते हैं कि सामाजिक सौहार्द बना रहे तो हमें पूरे बर्लिन में मध्य में पश्चिमी और पूर्वी बर्लिन के बीच एक दीवार बनाना आवश्यक है। धन्यवाद। मुझे आशा है कि आपको आपके प्रश्न का उत्तर मिल गया होगा।
The participant speaking against the motion can now start speaking.
क्या मैं दिखाई एवं सुनाई दे रही हूँ?
Yes, Priya.
ठीक है, तो मेरी 3 2 1 की गिनती पे आप शुरू कर दीजिएगा। 3 2 1। इस सदन की गरिमा को मेरा नमन। मैं दिए गए विषय के पुरजोर विपक्ष में अपने विचार प्रस्तुत करना चाहूंगी। मैं इस बात के खिलाफ हूँ कि बर्लिन में वापस से एक नई दीवार बनाई जाए। उस समय बर्लिन दीवार की जरूरत इसलिए पड़ी क्योंकि उस समय जर्मनी में 4 देशों का शासक था, जिस कारण बर्लिन को भी 2 भागों में बांट दिया गया, जिस वजह से हमें बर्लिन दीवार की जरूरत पड़ी। परंतु आज के समय में जर्मन एक ही देश है एवं वहां के लोग खुशी खुशी वहां पर विकास कर रहे हैं। आज जहां पर जर्मन में इतना अधिक विकास हो रहा है, इतनी अधिक एकता है, वहां पर मेरे हिसाब से आज के समय में बर्लिन की दीवार के वापस आने की तो कोई संभावना ही नहीं होनी चाहिए। मेरी पक्ष के मित्र आकर कहकर जाती हैं कि पश्चिमी बर्लिन एवं पूर्वी बर्लिन के बीच में मतभेद बहुत अधिक बढ़ेगा, क्योंकि पश्चिमी बर्लिन ने जितना विकास किया उन सभी पैसों को पूर्वी बर्लिन में लगा दिया गया। तो मैं उनको बता दूं, आज के समय में पूरा शहर, पूरा बर्लिन शहर एवं पूरा जर्मनी एक साथ कई ज्यादा विकास कर चुका है। अगर हम वापिस से बर्लिन की दीवार को खड़े कर देते तो उनके बीच में मतभेद बढ़ेंगे, कम नहीं होंगे। महोदय 28 वर्ष, महोदय गौर फरमाइएगा, लगभग 28 22 वर्षों तक बर्लिन के लोगों को उनके परिवारजनों से दूर रखा गया। कई लोगों को तो अपनी नौकरी से भी हाथ धोना पड़ा। तो ऐसी दीवार जो कि लोगों के लिए इतनी बुराई फैलाती है, जो कि लोगों के बीच में फूट डालती है, ऐसी दीवार को वापस लेकर आना तो कोई मूर्खता से कम ही नहीं है। यदि आपको पता हो तो फिर मैं बता दूं कि उस समय काफी सारे लोगों ने बर्लिन की दीवार को पार करने की कोशिश भी की, जिसमें से लगभग 5000 लोग कामयाब भी हुए और 200 के करीब लोग मारे भी गए। तो इससे हमें ये बात पता चलती है कि उन लोगों के बीच में भी बर्लिन की दीवार को लेकर बहुत ही अधिक असहयोग था। वह लोग बर्लिन की दीवार को नहीं चाहते थे। अंततः मैं यही कहना चाहूंगी कि ना ही प्राचीन काल में हमें बर्लिन की दीवार की जरूरत थी, ना आज के समय में है, ना ही कभी भविष्य में इसकी जरूरत हमें होगी। धन्यवाद। प्रश्न आमंत्रित है।
Now I request slot number 17 for the interjection.
जी धन्यवाद महोदय। जैसे कि आपने कहा कि आज बर्लिन शहर दोनों मिलकर बहुत तेजी से विकास कर रहा है, तो क्या आपको नहीं लगता कि कोरोना महामारी में जो इस देश को, जो जर्मनी एक बहुत ऐसा मुख्य देश रहा है जिसने कोरोना महामारी में एक बहुत बड़े सेटबैक का सामना किया है, तो कहीं ना कहीं बर्लिन की दीवार का कंस्ट्रक्शन करके हम वहाँ के लोगों को बहुत अच्छा रोजगार का एक उपाय प्रदान कर सकते हैं?
महोदय, प्रश्न के लिए धन्यवाद। परंतु क्या आपको कोरोना से तो खैर सभी देशों को थोड़ा थोड़ा इफेक्ट पड़ा ही है, परंतु क्या आपको ये नहीं लगता कि बर्लिन की दीवार के अलावा भी काफी सारी ऐसी चीजें जिनका अगर हम कंस्ट्रक्शन करें, जिनको हम अपने देश में बनाएं, तो हमारे देश में टूरिज्म भी आएगा, हमारे देश में कहीं ना कहीं से पैसे भी आएंगे, हम निवेश के कई अन्य उपाय भी खोज सकते हैं। जैसे कि हमारे देश में भी स्टेच्यू ऑफ यूनिटी को बनाया गया है और काफी सारे हिस्टोरिकल मॉन्यूमेंट्स है जहाँ से हमारे पास में पैसे आते हैं। तो इस प्रकार के कोई निवेश करे, ना कि इस बर्लिन की दीवार जो कि हमारे बंटवारे का, हमारे फूट का एक साधन है, उसको ना बनाकर हम कोई अच्छी सी चीज बनाए जिससे पर्यटक भी हमारे देश में आए और ज्यादा से ज्यादा धन भी हमारे देश में आए। और ये कोई बड़ी बात तो है नहीं कि कोरोना की वजह से केवल जर्मनी ही इफेक्ट हुए, काफी सारे देश हमारे इसमें अफेक्ट हुए हैं। तो फिर मैं यही कहना चाहूंगी कि उन्हें बर्लिन की दीवार नहीं बनानी चाहिए, वे कुछ नए संसाधन भी सोच सकते हैं, कुछ नया सोच सकते हैं। धन्यवाद। आशा करती हूँ आपको आपका उत्तर मिल गया होगा।
जी धन्यवाद।
Thank you, slot number 25. I would like to invite slot number 26, Vasudha Chananan and Ayushi Gupta. I request participants speaking for the motion to take the virtual stage.
I hope I'm audible and visible.
Yes, Vasudha, you are.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Vasudha Channa, slot number 26, and speaker 1, and I'll be speaking for the motion. This House believes that economic growth is a solution to climate change. I request you to start my timer on 3, 2, 1. I would like to firmly stand by the fact that global economy can continue growing and diffuse the threat of a warming planet through rapid market-led environment action and technological innovation. Let me elucidate this with an example chain. Many economists, as well as globally conducted experiments, have shown that a low tax on carbon set to rise slowly over the time could keep emissions at reasonable levels. Economies could thrive if governments made sure that the companies paid an appropriate price for whatever environmental damage that they cause, often called the social cost of carbon. Now, companies that could reduce their pollution level the most easily would be incentivized to make greater reductions and invest in cheaper and better pollution reduction systems. The most polluting activities would be the one that would be the most expensive. The tax would then promote innovations in new forms of power generation, and this would eventually lead to a widespread adoption of clean energy technologies. I would like to specifically stress on the fact that the notion of degrowth, which a lot of my fellow opponents have directly or indirectly applied to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, is completely unrealistic, while green growth is a better alternative in the longer run. Another example. If we faster growth means higher income, and looking from the agricultural point of view, this greater wealth means higher agricultural productivity. And boosting agricultural productivity in developing nations or less developed nations means more land for forest. That would, of course, lead to slowing down of global warming. In a nutshell, economic growth supplies the capital needed to fund the global no carbon energy transformation. And finally, I would like to conclude by saying whatever slows down economic growth will also slow down environmental cleanup and renewal in the longer run. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vasudha. Now I request slot number 15 for the intersection.
Thank you, Chair, for recognizing me. I'm slot 15, Ananya Banerjee. So, ma'am, in your speech, you have mentioned that the economic growth can lead to better technological development. But, ma'am, can you please defend the fact that economic growth leads to increased environmental degradation through greater resource exploitation and increased pollution? Because anyhow, the agricultural lands that we are utilizing from time immemorial are the forestry areas only, and the civilizations, the factories that are developing are costing the forests and the green lands that we have in our nation and around the world. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your question. I'm actually glad that you asked me that. Please start my timer. So, ma'am, according to your question, let me just bring to your point that you are looking at the shorter run. In economic growth increases our GDP, increases, makes people wealthier and increases their living conditions. So when people become wealthier, people have the funds to, invest in making cleaner technologies, shifting to those expensive renewable resources that you are promoting. And the fact that you said, of course, there's no blindfold, and we will say that in the shorter run, economic growth might lead to some environmental degradation. But in the longer run, if we see, this actually reverses when the companies and the people are more wealthier and have the funds to actually invest in newer and better technologies. So I would like you to understand that from that perspective as well. And decoupling as well as green growth is actually possible, and that has happened in more than 32 countries. Some examples for your reference would be USA, China, Japan, as well as Slovakia, and Singapore being at the top. Thank you so much.
Now I request participants speaking against the motion to take the stage.
I hope I'm audible as well as visible.
Yes, you are, Ayushi.
Okay. Just 1 second. I think there's some network issue at my end. Like, I'm not able to see your screen. Can you reshare it? Thank you so much. It's perfectly visible now. A very good afternoon to one and all present here. This is Ayushi Gupta, speaker 2, slot number 26. And today I'll be speaking against the motion this House believes that economic growth is the solution to climate change. Kindly start my timer in 3, 2, 1. Climate change is one of the most pressing issues of our time. The science is clear. Human activities have already caused approximately 1 degree Celsius of global warming, and at current rate, it is likely to increase multifold. The faster GDP rises, the better an economy is said to be performing. But something that happens as all economic activity expands is that the amount of energy and resources we use also increases, which has also mean that there will be more waste and more pollution. Historically, greenhouse gas emissions have risen alongside GDP. As economies have grown, nature has paid the price. This relationship between GDP and greenhouse gas emissions is more than a statistical anomaly. And because GDP can be stated in the terms of income, responsibility for climate change is approximated through the distribution of income. This assignment of responsibility works at the level of nations as well as the economic class. Rich nations are responsible for more greenhouse gas emissions than the poor nations. Clearly, economic growth is the cause of climate change and not the solution to it. And as the climate crisis has become ever harder to ignore, it is indeed worth questioning whether infinite economic growth is possible or even desirable on a planet of finite resources. To grow or not to grow? That is the question. It is easy to see why the idea that we must keep growing is so hard to give up. But what we need to solve the climate crisis is a managed contraction of economic activity often termed as degrowth. It aims at reversing the central logic of economic system that prioritizes growth over human and ecological well-being. The only way humanity can control climate change is for the richest nation to initiate degrowth process in order to leave sufficient ecological room for other nations as well as the biodiversity. This is required not just for climate change, as well as for the response to all environmental problems. I'd like to conclude my speech with a quote by a well-known environmental activist, Edward Abbey: "Growth just for the sake of growth is the ideology of the cancer cell." Thank you.
Thank you, Ayushi. Now I would like to request slot number 33 for the interjection.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
I just want to ask the speaker that for every innovation, we need money. And the money can only be produced by the rich economies. All the latest researches and developments that are taking place, they are by the developed countries only. So how can you negate this process that the innovation, without innovation, you will be able to deploy the economic growth, and economic growth will not be result in climate change? When it will, because when you will be able to develop more efficient technology, then only you will be able to undergo climate change. And for that you need money, and for that you rise to economy. How can you lower the economy and increase the climate change?
I thank you a lot for that beautiful question. I would like to start the timer for my answer right now. So first of all, we need to go back in history to understand the question and the answer to it. Earlier, we did not have a lot of technology. During the time of our ancestors, we did not have any technology. The concept of money was not even there, and we had perfectly clean environment. There was no climate crisis. So yeah, the question stands mostly irrelevant. And they mentioned that technological development only happens in developed countries, which is very, very false and a very biased opinion, because in a country like India, which is a developing country, a lot of technological innovations happen all the time. We can look at the mission MOM and all, the examples are endless, honestly. Also, they mentioned that we need money. I never in my speech mentioned that we don't need money, but we are looking at that we don't need to end this endless pursuit towards the growth without any reason. We need growth with purpose, and that is not happening at the present moment. Thank you. I hope I was able to answer your question.
Thank you, slot number 26. I would like to invite slot number 27. I request the participant speaking for the motion to take the virtual stage.
Am I audible? आपको आवाज आ रही है मेरी?
Yes, you are.
और कैमरा भी सही दिख रहा है मैम आपको?
Yes, Avika.
Okay, so let me introduce me first. So मैं अविका भारद्वाज अपने विषय that कि भाई भतीजावाद एक छद्म प्रिविलेज है, उसके विषय में, उसके पक्ष में अपने विचार आपके सामने रखना चाहूंगी. So 1 2 3 start. उद्धेमन ही सिद्ध्यन्ति कार्याणि न मनोरथे. उद्धेमन ही सिद्ध्यन्ति कार्याणि न मनोरथे. नाहि सुप्तस्य सिंहस्य प्रविशति मुखे मृगः. अर्थात व्यक्ति के कार्य उसके कठिन परिश्रम और उसकी बुद्धिमत्ता से ही स्थापित किए जा सकते हैं, क्योंकि सोते हुए सिंह के मुंह में तो मृग अपने आप प्रवेश नहीं कर सकता. उसके लिए हमें कोई ना कोई सिंह को भी कठिन परिश्रम करना पड़ता है. भाई भतीजावाद को हमने आज के युग में इतना सार्वजनिक और इतना साधारण बना दिया है कि यदि जब भी कोई योग्य व्यक्ति किसी पद को हासिल करता है तो हम उसे भाई भतीजावाद का तबका देकर उसकी योग्यता पर एक बहुत बड़ा प्रश्न खड़ा कर देते हैं. भाई भतीजावाद एक छद्म विशेषाधिकार है. इससे पूर्णतः सहमत होने में मुझे जरा भी संकोच नहीं होगा. हम किसी भी व्यक्ति की योग्यता, उसके कठिन परिश्रम, उसकी बुद्धिमत्ता को केवल भाई भतीजावाद के तराजू में तोलकर नहीं रख सकते. हमें उसकी मुक्त उत्साहिता, उसकी सहकारिता को भी ध्यान में रखना होगा. हमें देखना होगा कि वो व्यक्ति कितना योग्य है, क्या पता कितने परिश्रम से वो इस पद में आसीन हुआ है. अरे हम कैसे कह सकते हैं हम कैसे कह सकते हैं कि एक राजनेता का पुत्र यदि राजनीति में उतरा है तो केवल भाई भतीजावाद के सहारे से उतरा है। इसका उदाहरण ले लीजिए आप। हम सभी जानते हैं कि समाजवादी पार्टी की नींव मुलायम सिंह जी ने रखी, परंतु क्या हम ये नहीं जानते कि उनके पुत्र अखिलेश यादव जी, जो कि हमारे पूर्व मुख्यमंत्री भी रहे हैं, अपनी क्षमता, अपने सक्षम होने से ही आज के चुनावी दौर में उतरे हैं और आज की सबसे बड़ी राजनीतिक पार्टी को एक बहुत बड़ा दंगल भी दे रहे हैं। हम कैसे कह सकते हैं कि किसी भी संपदा का मालिक निष्पक्ष ना होकर किसी भी अपने सगे संबंधी, अपने पुत्र पुत्री को पद पर आसीन कर देता है? क्या इसका उदाहरण हमारे पास नहीं है? हम सभी जानते हैं कि साइरस पूनावाला जी ने सीरम इंस्टीट्यूट, जिसने लोगों को जीवन दान देने का कार्य किया है, उसकी स्थापना रखी, परंतु क्या हम ये कह सकते हैं कि उनके पुत्र आधार पूनावाला, जो कि आजकल
योर टाइम इज अप।
ओके, आजकल की जो आधार पूनावाला जी ने सीरम इंस्टीट्यूट को संभाला हुआ है, क्या वो सफलता नहीं है? अतः अपनी वाणी को विराम देते हुए मैं यही कहना चाहूंगी कि व्यक्ति अपनी योग्यता पर ही आगे बढ़ता है, ना कि भाई भतीजावाद के बल पर।
Now I request slot number 21 for injection.
जी बिल्कुल महोदय, आप बात करती हैं कि उनको नेपोटिज्म की बात करी आपने। नेपोटिज्म में क्या होता है, जो अपॉर्चुनिटीज होती है, यानी मौकों की जब हम बात करते हैं तो मौके जो होते हैं जिनकी कोई सिफारिश लगी होती है या फिर भाई भतीजावाद से जो लोग संबंधित है, वो मौके उनको पहले मिल जाते हैं, जो कि बाकियों को भी मिलने चाहिए।
मैं शुरू करूं अपने प्रश्न का उत्तर जो आपने मुझे दिया है?
जी बिल्कुल।
ओके, तो आपने कहा कि मौके दिए जाते हैं। देखिए, हर सिक्के के दो पहलू होते हैं। मैं आपको यही कहूंगी कि हमें दोनों पहलुओं को पूर्ण रूप से देखना चाहिए। ये बात सही है कि हो सकता है उन्हें एक दो मौका ज्यादा मिला हुआ, परंतु हमारे पास ऐतिहासिक तौर पर भी ऐसे उदाहरण है जिसमें हम ये दिखा सकते हैं कि मौका देने के बावजूद भी जब व्यक्ति पदासीन व्यक्ति जब उस पद को संभालने के सक्षम नहीं हो पाता, तब किसी सगे संबंधी ने मैदान में उतरकर उस पद को संभाला है। जवाहरलाल नेहरू जी की पुत्री इंदिरा गांधी जी को ले लीजिए, वो एक आयरन लेडी हमारे देश की कहलाती है। तो उनसे पहले लाल बहादुर शास्त्री जी और बहुत सारे ऐसे नेताओं को मौके दिए गए कांग्रेस का पद संभालने के लिए, परंतु जब बात नहीं बनी तो अंत में इंदिरा गांधी जी को ही राजनीतिक मंच पर उतरना पड़ा और इतिहास गवाह है कि वो कितनी काबिल राजनेता के रूप में उभरी हैं। धन्यवाद।
Thank you, Avika. The participant speaking against the motion can now start speaking.
क्या मैं आपको ठीक से दिखाई और सुनाई दे रही हूँ?
Yes, you are.
मैं अपने परिचय से शुरुआत करूंगी और 1 2 3 की गिनती पर आप मेरा टाइमर शुरू कर दीजिएगा। तो शुभ अपराह्न, मेरा नाम है जाह्नवी शर्मा, मेरा स्लॉट क्रमांक है 27 और मेरा दिया गया विषय, मुझे जो दिया गया है वो कुछ इस प्रकार है। यह सदन मानता है कि भाई भतीजावाद एक छद्म विशेषाधिकार है और मैं दिए गए विषय के विपक्ष में अपने विचार प्रस्तुत करूंगी। 1 2 3। सदन की गरिमा को मेरा सादर प्रणाम। मैं अपने वक्तव्य की शुरुआत भाई भतीजावाद, छद्म विशेषाधिकार जैसे भारी शब्दों को परिभाषित करते हुए करना चाहूंगी। भाई भतीजावाद दोस्तवाद के बाद आने वाली एक ऐसी राजनीतिक शब्दावली है जिसमें योग्यता को दरकिनार करके अपने अयोग्य परिजनों को उच्च पदों पर सत्तासीन कर दिया जाता है। अब प्रश्न ये उठता है कि छद्म का अर्थ क्या होता है? तो छद्म का अर्थ है छल या कपट। और जब आते हैं विशेषाधिकार पर, तो विशेषाधिकार बना है 2 शब्दों के मेल से, विशेष और अधिकार। और मेरा यह मानना है कि भाई भतीजावाद कोई छद्म विशेषाधिकार नहीं है, बल्कि ये ऐसी कटु वास्तविकता है जो कि एक योग्य व्यक्ति को हताश करने का दुस्साहस करती है। ये कैसा सुनहरा धोखा है कि जिस व्यक्ति को हम योग्य मानते हैं, हम उसे दरकिनार कर देते हैं सिर्फ इस कारण क्योंकि हमें किसी अयोग्य व्यक्ति को सत्ता आसीन करना है। हाँ बिल्कुल, भाई भतीजावाद एक छद्म विशेषाधिकार है योग्य व्यक्ति के लिए, क्योंकि वो अपनी योग्यता के बलबूते पर सफलता को हासिल करता है। और यदि भाई भतीजावाद कोई छद्म विशेषाधिकार है तो हम कैसे भूल सकते हैं राहुल गांधी को? हम कैसे भूल सकते हैं राबड़ी देवी को, जो कि सत्ता आसीन है केवल अपने परिजनों के एहसानों पर। अंत में मैं अपने शब्दों को बस यही विराम देते हुए इतना कहना चाहूंगी कि जो लोग ये मानते हैं कि भाई भतीजावाद एक छद्म विशेषाधिकार है, उन्हें अपने नजरिए को, अपनी सोच को बदलने की जरूरत है। उन्हें वास्तविकता को अपनाने की जरूरत है। उन्हें सच्चाई को अपनी आंखें खोल कर देखने की जरूरत है। धन्यवाद।
I request slot number 45 for interjection.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate your speech. I want to know कि अगर nepotism word को हम लोगों ने इतना highlight कर दिया है, अगर आपके relation में कोई इंसान है और उसके अंदर इतना talent है कि वो move on करे उस चीज पर, तो आपको नहीं लगता कि आप उसको support करेंगी rather कि nepotism का नाम देंगी, अगर उस इंसान में वो qualities हैं, talent है to work on that particular thing? आपका क्या इस चीज पर राय है?
महोदय, आपके प्रश्न के लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। कृपया आप मेरा टाइमर स्टार्ट कर दीजिए। तो आपका प्रश्न अगर मैं बात करूं तो अवश्य मैं अपने अपने रिश्तेदार को जरूर भाई भतीजावाद के नाम पर आगे करूंगी, यदि वो मुझे उस पद के लिए, उस चीज के लिए बिल्कुल सही लगता है। और यही तो मेरा वक्तव्य है, यही तो मेरा पॉइंट है कि ये कोई छद्म नहीं, ये कोई फॉल्स नेपोटिज्म, कोई फॉल्स प्रिविलेज नहीं है, यह वास्तविकता है। क्योंकि यदि आप हो, यदि मैं हूं, यदि अगर आपका भाई किसी चीज में अच्छा है और आप उसे आगे बढ़ाना चाहती हैं, तो आप उसे करेंगी, उसे आगे उस पद के लिए जरूर आप उसको प्रेरित करेंगी। और यही मेरा वक्तव्य कहता है कि नेपोटिज्म असली है, यह वास्तविकता है, परंतु लोग इसे छद्म कहकर झुठलाना चाहते हैं, इस वास्तविकता को अपनाना नहीं चाहते हैं। धन्यवाद। आशा है कि मैंने आपके प्रश्न का उत्तर दे दिया होगा।
Thank you, slot number 27. I would like to invite slot number 28, Arya and Isha Gupta. I request the participant speaking for the motion to take the virtual stage.
Am I audible and visible?
No, Arya, you are not visible.
Just a second. Can I rejoin? My camera is, I guess, hanged.
You have 1 minute. Try rejoining.
Am I visible now?
Yes, you are.
Okay, so a very good afternoon to everyone present out here. My name is Arya Sharma, slot number 28, and I'll be speaking for the motion. This House believes evictions of Palestinian families in East Jerusalem was regretful. I'll start on a count of 3, 2, and 1. Furniture, electrical appliances, books, and even pots of plants. A family's home had been reduced to a heap of rubble as if struck by an earthquake. After refusing to heed an eviction order, living in fear and apprehension, the Salem family awaits imminent forced displacement from the house they have lived in since 1951. Currently home to 3 generations. They have no other place to go, neither can't they afford a new place to rent. On rent. They could end up in the street in the cold and rainy weather. The unbearable stress, struggle to sleep at night, increasing health problems or making them worse. The evictions have grave physical, social, economic, and emotional impact on the Palestinian families concerned. In addition to depriving the family of a home, its main asset and source of physical and economic security, evictions frequently resulted in disruption in livelihoods, increased poverty, and a reduced standard of living. The high legal fees families incur when defending their case in court further strain their already meager financial resources. The impact on children is particularly devastating, including PTSD, post traumatic stress disorder, depression, anxiety, and diminished academic achievement. A woman who breaks down during her interview because she is forced to leave the house with her mother's memories, who is no longer in this world. The establishment of settlement compound in the heart of Palestinian areas also create a coercive environment on the daily lives of Palestinians. residing in the vicinity of these compounds and creates pressure on them to leave. The main elements of this environment include increased tension, violence, and arrests, restrictions on movement and access, and a reduction on privacy due to the presence of private security guards and surveillance cameras. Would any of you wish to live in such an environment? I don't think anyone would. Israeli settler organizations, with the support of Israeli authorities, had taken control of properties within Palestinian neighborhoods in East Jerusalem. How unethical is that? Nobody, in my opinion, deserves to live in fear of oppression and authoritarianism. So,
Your
yes,
time is up.
evictions of Palestinian families in East Jerusalem was absolutely regretful. Thank you.
Now I request slot number 43 for the interjection.
Yeah, thank you. So Arya, I certainly agree with you that what happened with the Palestinians was not at all something that the world would have wanted. But let's just not forget that during the reign of Hitler in Germany, all the Jews were like brutally killed during the World War II. And now when they were they were the minority groups there, they wanted their land back. That is the the area around Jerusalem. So is it wrong? Is it wrong to have is it wrong to have the wish to have their land back?
It is obviously not wrong to have your land back, and that's what that is what exactly I said. Because what happens if someone forces you to leave your house tomorrow? It will obviously not be possible for you, neither would you be willing to do that, right? So yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. The participant speaking against the motion can now start speaking.
Hi, am I properly visible and audible?
Yes, you are.
Thank you. So, good afternoon, judges and fellow people in the meeting. I'm Isha, and I'll be speaking against the motion. And the motion is, this house believes that eviction of Palestinian families from the East Jerusalem is regretful, and I totally oppose that. You can start my timer. So, first, let us look into some of the terms used in the motion, that is Palestinian. The Palestinian is a people who live in Palestine, which is a state in Western Asia, governed and ruled by PLO, that is Palestine Liberation Organization, claiming Western Bank and Gaza Strip. Jerusalem. Jerusalem is one of the oldest cities in the Western Asia, considered to be a holy state for three major religions, that is Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Both Israelis and Palestinians claim Jerusalem as their own capital. Eviction basically means the action of expelling someone from their property. Let us now look into what actually happened in East Jerusalem. Several Palestinian Arab families living in Sheikh Jarrah faced eviction from their homes following a ruling from Jerusalem's district court. In my opinion, it has nothing to do with Arabs and Jews. There's just an intellectual laziness and shameless misinformation created by people. And all of this comes under the later category. The title to the land was never belonged to the Palestinian Arabs currently residing on the property. This is just as simple as a standard that landlord's eviction from the land. This all belongs just to the standard that landlord's eviction from a non-paying tenant. But you wouldn't know that based on the current media coverage and outcry of the progressive left. Several progressives are even arguing to the condition aid to the Israel over the Sheikh Jarrah issue, suggesting that US aid to Israel is being used as to oppress Palestinian Arabs. The land in question here was peaceful land that eventually was returned to the lawful owners of lawful Jewish owners. At the end, I would like to just conclude by saying this nothing but neo-Nazism.
Thank you so much, Isha. Now I would like to call slot number 12 for the interjection.
Hi, this is slot 12. So ma'am, you mentioned in your speech that the land belonged to them, that both claim that the land belonged to them, right? But in your speech, you also mentioned that it originally did not belong to Palestinians. So if at all we want to depopulate or remove them from the land, don't you think there needs to be a structured process for that? But violating that and simply depopulating them, killing them is a gross violation of human rights.
What was the mid of the question? I couldn't hear that properly. Can you
In your
repeat it, please?
speech, you mentioned, yeah, I would repeat that again. In your speech, ma'am, you mentioned that both Israelis and Palestinians, they claim that the land belongs to them. But originally, as you mentioned, that the land did not belong to Palestinians. So do you think something that was approved internationally by UN Resolution 194, that the land will belong to both of them, two independent nations, which is Israel and Palestine? So don't you think it's a violation of the International Code of Adherence and also human rights violation, depopulating them and killing them?
Okay, yeah, it is true that in the international there's a violation of international press with the international rule, but at the same point of time there are certain like provision wherein the people from Israel could live on the same land. Thank you.
Thank you, slot number 28. Now I request slot number 29, Harshal Naidu and Sangam Pal. I request the participants speaking for the motion to take the virtual stage.
Am I audible and visible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, ma'am. I'll give out a short introduction, post which I'll give out my motion and the slot number, and then I can give you a cue, after which you can start the timer. Okay, my name is Harshal and I firmly believe that this house believes that change is not progress. Slot number 29. In a 3, 2, 1. Panel and members present over here. The phrases progress and change are frequently used interchangeably, yet there is a distinction that many people overlook. Progress often denotes a positive forward movement that can be witnessed as an optional, whereas change doesn't always mean positive change and is inevitable. The first argument I want to present forward is to survive in this competitive capitalistic world, change is inevitable in the areas of business and technology. And under the pretext of innovation and competition, we have run out of time to reflect on certainties. These organizations fail to review this entire scope of transformation. Sometimes it is due to the lack of resources, and other times it is due to the underestimating the importance of changes or rushing to undertake big change without adequate assessment. Businesses and individuals are swayed by the fallacies that business equates to productive and change equates to progress. These so-called changes, however, becomes aimless in contrast to when the impulse for change is to move away from an unsatisfactory existing condition that is usually launched out of panic. The second argument I want to present forward through an example is that the proposed legal amendment to increase the legal marriage age from 18 to 21. As per the National Family Health Survey, 1/4 of the women aged between 20 to 24 years were married before turning 18 years old. In 1978, the legal minimum marriage age for girls was turned from 15 to 18, and for boys 18 to 21. This kind of change can't be termed as progress unless it solves the complexities on the foundational levels, such as addressing the problems at the grassroots levels, building social infrastructure, expanding education, and providing incentives and opportunities to the affected communities. It is therefore argued that instead of legally increasing the minimum marital age, the root cause of child marriage should be addressed to bring about value in change society. To conclude, a change on the won't equate to progress, as progress accounts for a given direction and a goal set. A change, on the other hand, doesn't account for outcomes, therefore leaves the uncertainty in the hands of individuals. Thank you.
Now I request slot number 33 for the interjection.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. So, Speaker, I have a question for you.
Yes,
In
sir.
the initially, there used to exist monarchy. Then we have developed constitutional monarchy. Then we have developed democracy. So I think it will be considered to be a change. And this change has also led to progress, because at this present, all the countries, most of the countries which exist and are developed, they are democracy. So how can you say that change is not a progress?
Okay, so sir, according to the question that you just asked me, sir, in this scenario, change is perceptible to the viewer's option. However, progress can be seen from a macro level. At this point of time, when there is democracy that is prevailing, there is autocracy that also prevails under the paradigm. In this situation, what happens is that where you see a change happening, you always see a bit of lagging that goes behind it. At the same time, there is a problem in the shift of powers due to the wars or conflicts that goes on, at the same time due to the fall of these regimes and monopolies and monarchs. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Harshal. Now I request the participant speaking against the motion to take over the virtual stage.
All right, ma'am. Am I visible and audible to all the fellow participants and to panel?
Yes, you are.
All right. I'll be giving a short intro and then I'll be speaking my speech. All right. My name is Sangampal and I'm here to refute the statement that this house believes that change is not progress. All right. Ma'am, you can start my timer in 3, 2, 1. Well, panel, we need to understand that, you know, I'm again repeating the motion that this house believes that change is not progress. And why I'm saying so, I'll tell you the reasons further in my speech. But to start, let me point it out that, you know, my counterpart and the fellow other participants, you know, told you the definition of what progress and what change is. But you need to understand that they told the definition according to an individual. But here, as I said, this house, we are a group of conscious individuals who need to think about society as a whole. So that is the thing, right? Why change is very important, because change, you know, according to them is positive or negative, but in this case, as a society, change is always positive. Why? Because change comes out from a society when there is problems, and when people acknowledge that there is a problem, they need solutions, and for that solution they need change, and therefore that change needs to progress only. Let me give you a short example, right? In India, there was Article 377, you know, that used to say that homosexuality is should be banned and is bad. In simple words, I'm saying that homosexuality in India is not allowed. But with changing times, people, you know, got to know that, or people gain that consciousness, right? Okay, they also have a right to live, right? We need to change our thinking, we need to change our mindset, right? They are also human beings, and it is as much natural as other genders are. So they accepted the fact that, okay, homosexuality is also one of the concepts of humans, right? This is one thing. Secondly comes about the subjectivity. Positives and negatives are subjective to the people, right? For example, someone's terrorist might be someone's freedom fighter. Let's take example of India only. uh, we say that they are freedom fighters, and why we say that? Because they fight for the right of people to live, right of people to, you know, take their own decisions. Well, to conclude, I would just say that change enables you to retrospect your mistakes and allows you to correct them, and that is where change leads you to progress. Thank you. I would like to take interjections, if any, now.
Now I request slot number 37 for the interjection.
Okay, very well spoken. My question to you is that you must be aware of the drastic effects of climate change, right? Which does not seem to benefit anybody. In fact, has posed numerous problems to the world today. How would you call this? How would you call this change a progress?
All right. See, as I said, someone's change has dual effect, right? Positive and negatives as a society. But you need to understand that what climate change has resulted. Yes, there are problems, but similarly, a consciousness has been created in the minds of people, right? Okay, that we need to see to the climate as well, right? Whatever problems that we are or whatever extra things that we are doing, or maybe extracting resources, is causing a problem to environment, and that is why we need to control that. This is what progressive thought or progressive mindset that has been inculcated into this, into the population, that we need to take care of environment itself, because we are dependent on environment, right? Environment has a significant role to play for the betterment of the whole population. So this is the progressive thinking. This is the progress that we have made towards environment, that we have been much more conscious, and of course that reflects in the policies of different nations also, that we'll be doing we'll be taking these steps to conserve the environment, right? Thank you for the question. I hope I'm clear to everyone.
Sorry to interrupt, but the one who asked question, can you just please repeat it so I can document it?
Yes, sure. So my question was that we all are aware of the drastic effects of climate change, and which does not seem to benefit anybody, but rather has a drastic effect, negative effects on the world. So how does that change leads mean progress?
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you, slot number 29. Just a reminder that write your interjections after 1 minute of speaking time is over. We are giving the opportunity to interject to all the teams. So if someone has already interjected once or twice, someone else can ask even if they wrote their slot numbers at the end. Now we will continue with slot number 30, Manharleen and Darian Kurshid. I request the participant speaking for the motion to take the virtual stage.
Hello, am I audible and visible to you?
Yes, you are.
Okay, so I'll start with my introduction and then you will start the timer. Good afternoon, esteemed judges and my fellow mates. I am Manharleen Singh Khurana and I am going to speak for the motion of the topic that philosophy of wantlessness is utopian while materialism is Shimra. So you can start the timer. So, can you think that from now onwards in your life you will not having any desire? Obviously not. It is impossible. The basic need of the living creature is food and mating. But if we talk about humans, then humans have pulled. Wait a second. Okay. The basic need of the living customers is food and mating. But if we talk about the humans, then we have pulled ourselves from the primitive needs and tried different ways of self-development. Through various development, want and desires of human started becoming endless with time. And even economics also say that human wants are unlimited. And if one wants of a person is fulfilled, then another arises. And even if we talk about billionaires such as Mukesh Ambani, then he has enough money that his upcoming 100 plus generation do not need to earn, but still they have desire to earn more. When we talk about the higher purpose of life, materialism becomes Shimra, which means that we cannot become, uh, get everything which we imagine, because resources are not in abundance to fill each and everyone desires, and they are in scarce. So, however, the truth is that we need nothing to live except clothes, foods, and shelter. Something may make life easier, but they are not necessary for living. And you cannot get everything which you imagine, because consumption of something is also having limits. So when we run after materialism, we tend to ignore the important aspects of life, such as love, happiness, respect, and feeling of being together. But we live in the illusionary world. When we talk about the solution, then there should be a balanced path which we should follow, and we should not run after materialism and wantlessness, but follow both of them in desirable doses. Thank you. Interjection us.
Now I request slot number 26 for the interjection.
Thank you, panel, for the recognition. So, sir, as you mentioned that there is a constant race of people trying to achieve something and the wants are endless. But don't you agree that this leads to a competitive world, and competition basically leads to better amenities, better opportunities? So basically, if a person does not have ambition, a person is not materialistic, they will eventually lack ambition and they will eventually lack motivation. So what exactly are you proposing? Are you proposing that people should not be ambitious, people should not aspire to become great?
Okay, so you can start my timer. So I want to convey that we should not have to run for the material, because this world is materialistic, and also the want the people, it is impossible to make everyone want less. And with that I want to convey that we do not have to follow both of them, and we should take a balanced path. We must not have unlimited desires. We have limited desires. We can have limited desires. Even if someone is having enough money, then they can donate to the society. And if we talk about you're saying that there are some people who do not follow this materialistic world, then I can say that they are not in the ratio, they are in very less ratio. So I think that if there are more than 80% ratio who have unlimited want, then this is obviously not good. That's, thank you.
Now I request the participant speaking against the motion to take the word to the stage.
Am I audible and visible? Am I audible and visible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, so I am Darin Khurshid, slot number 30, speaking against the belief of the House that philosophy of wantlessness is utopian while materialism is chimera. And I'll start in 3, 2, 1. Okay. The proposition states that the philosophy of wantlessness is a paradox in itself. Well, let me clarify this for you. Wantlessness is, if I want to be wantless, I will never be able to be wantless. I can only achieve wantless. Wantlessness is not, cannot be desired, it is achieved. If I truly submit my will to God, or I devote myself to God without expecting anything in return, then I become wantless. I achieve wantlessness. It is not that if I desire, I will be wantless. Now, the proposition seems to be a bit confused between what is a want and what is a need. See, eating, drinking, sleeping, mating, these are needs. These are embedded in our genes. So these are not wants. Now, the existence of various people like Gautam Buddha, Mahavir, then various Sufi saints, monks, then Naga sadhus, existence of all such people make us evidently clear that, yeah, this concept is not utopian, but it is achievable. Since it is hard, that is why people think that it is unachievable, but it is achievable. Now, coming to the second part of materialism. See, if a person eats a full meal after a hard day of work, if he quenches his thirst, or if he holds his newborn for the first time in his hands, these are worldly desire, but it gives him a sense of satisfaction. See, the proposition proposes that there is no limit to one's satisfaction, which is where they are wrong. Because there are limits to one's satisfaction, or limits to one's desire. See, we all are surrounded by materialism, and we see that some of us are more content than the other. A rural family is more happier and satisfied than an urban family. A country like Bhutan is more happier than a country like USA. Why it is? It is because of the mentality of the person. See, it depends upon how we perceive our desires. If we put a limit, then we are able to fully understand and achieve satisfaction via materialism. So at the end, I would like to conclude by saying that, yeah, wantlessness is not utopian concept, it is achievable, while materialism is not chimera, it is a conceivable reality which depends upon the mentality of that particular person. Thank you, and I was proud to oppose the motion.
Now I would like to request slot number 12 for interjection.
Thank you. Hi, this is slot number 12. So, sir, as you mentioned, that how a person is in village is more content with whatever he or she has, rather than a person always aiming to develop himself or herself. So don't you think that the competitiveness or the materialistic reality. It further pushes ourselves and also enables a level playing field for people from all strata of society to compete and get to a certain level in their life.
See, thank you for the question. The difference is this, that a person, if he achieves his desire, it depends solely on the person. Like even in urban families, we find that some people are more satisfied than the other. What is the reason? The reason is this, that they are capable of identifying that where to stop. It is about the mentality of a particular person, that they should know the difference between having reasonable desires and having unrealistic unlimited desires. If I am able to recognize this, then yeah, I am able to achieve satisfaction via acquiring this worldly desire. But if I fail to do that, then that will be disastrous, as excess of anything is disastrous. So it depends upon the mentality of each and every individual, how she perceives this materialism. Thank you. I hope that answered your question.
Thank you, slot number 30. I would like to invite slot number 31, Arpit Katiyar and Akshay Pratap Singh. I request the participants speaking for the motion to take the virtual stage.
थैंक यू मैम। क्या मैं दिखाई एवं सुनाई दे रहा हूँ?
Yes.
जी, आप मेरा समय शुरू कर सकती हैं। हमारे देश का लोकतंत्र कच्चे तेल की वह घानी है जिसमें आधा तेल और आधा पानी है। धूमिल की इन पंक्तियों के साथ आप सभी को मेरा नमस्कार। मैं सदन की राय लोकतंत्र एक पश्चिमी अवधारणा है के पुरजोर पक्ष में अपने विचार लेकर उपस्थित हूँ। महोदय, जब देश परतंत्रता की बेड़ियों में जकड़ा हुआ था, तब 1857 की क्रांति की सफलता के बाद इस भारतवर्ष के उन शिक्षित नागरिकों ने जो इंग्लैंड जैसे पश्चिमी देशों के विश्वविद्यालयों से पढ़कर आए, उन देशभक्तों ने पश्चिमी लोकतंत्र द्वारा स्वराज्य से शासित होते भारत का एक स्वप्न देखा। उन्हें उस लोकतंत्र ने प्रभावित किया जिसकी अवधारणा मैकियावेली ने प्रस्तुत की। उन्हें उस लोकतंत्र ने प्रभावित किया जो अमेरिका और यूरोप के कई देशों में प्रचलित था। शासन की एक ऐसी प्रणाली जो भारत जैसे विविधता संपन्न देश के साथ न्याय कर सकती थी, एक ऐसी प्रणाली जिसके बिना स्वतंत्रता अधूरी होती। यदि हम भारत के संदर्भ में लोकतंत्र की बात करें तो यह एक तथ्य है कि भारतीय संविधान के निर्माण की प्रक्रिया में अधिकांशतः पश्चिमी देशों के संविधानों से तत्व लिए गए हैं। राजतंत्र, कुलीन तंत्र, सैन्य तंत्र, भीड़ तंत्र या लोकतंत्र। यूनानी चिंतकों प्लेटो और अरस्तू के चिंतन की धुरी का सबसे महत्वपूर्ण प्रश्न यही था कि एक आदर्श राज्य की संकल्पना में राज्य के प्रशासन की सबसे उचित प्रणाली कौन सी है। पुनर्जागरण कार्य के उपरांत जहां परलोक की मिथ्यावादी विचारधारा में समाहित हो गई, वहीं दो तलवारों के सिद्धांत व चर्चावाद की धारणा विलुप्त सी हो गई, तब यथार्थवादी लोकतांत्रिक प्रणाली का जन्म हुआ। अवश्य जब स्वतंत्रता उपरांत भारत के भविष्य के संदर्भ में यह प्रश्न उठा कि कौन सी प्रणाली भारत के लिए सबसे उचित होगी, तब उस यथार्थवादी लोकतंत्र के पक्ष में सबसे अधिक दो तर्क सबसे महत्वपूर्ण रूप से सामने आए। क्योंकि भारत लोकतांत्रिक संसदीय प्रणाली से ब्रिटानी शासन के अंतर्गत भली भांति प्रचलित था, और दूसरा कि भारत की विविधता, प्रतिव्यक्ति न्याय, अधिकार एवं स्वतंत्रता के लिए यह एकमात्र साधन है। लेकिन उम्र भर गालिब भूल यही करता रहा, धूल चेहरे पर थी और आईना साफ करता रहा। इसे चरितार्थ करते हुए मेरे विपक्षी मित्र प्राचीन गणराज्य के उदाहरण देते नहीं थक रहे। किंतु क्या वर्तमान लोकतंत्र लिच्छवी गणराज्य के विशाल प्रसादों और राजठाट से प्रभावित है? कदापि नहीं। क्या लोकतंत्र किसी ऐसी व्यवस्था से प्रभावित है जहां वैश्यालय गणपतियों की भीड़ से भरे रहते थे? यदि लोकतंत्र का यह लोक कल्याणकारी स्वरूप उन प्राचीन गणराज्यों की देन होता तो भारत में विगत सहस्त्रों वर्षों में प्रयोग होता। धन्यवाद। अब प्रश्न आमंत्रित हैं।
Now I request slot number 21 for interjection.
जी महोदय, पहले तो मैं आपको बताना चाहूंगी कि भारत का जो कानून है वो विभिन्न देशों के कानून से लिया। और दूसरी बात ये, अगर कोई हम दूसरे देश से कुछ सीख रहे हैं, कुछ लेके आ रहे हैं, तो इसका मतलब यह नहीं है कि जो हमारा डेमोक्रेसी है, जो लोकतंत्र है, वो वेस्टर्न कॉन्सेप्ट है। इस विषय में आप क्या कहना चाहेंगे?
जो हमारा सदन का विषय है, जो हमारा सदन का टॉपिक है, वो यही है कि लोकतंत्र एक पश्चिमी अवधारणा है, और मैं इसके पक्ष में वही बोल रहा था जिसे आपने भी अभी सत्य सिद्ध किया है कि हमारे संविधान में तत्व वहां से लिए गए। मैं ऐसा नहीं कह रहा हूं कि भारतीय लोकतंत्र बुरा है या लोकतंत्र एक पश्चिमी अवधारणा होने के कारण बुरा होगा, लेकिन लोकतंत्र एक पश्चिमी अवधारणा है, ये सिद्ध करना मेरा कार्य था और यही मेरा कहने का प्रयास है।
Thank you. Now, the participant speaking against the motion can start speaking.
मेरी आवाज स्पष्ट आ रही है?
हाँ जी।
जी, मेरा नाम अर्पित कटियार है और आप मेरा समय शुरू कर सकती हैं। चिरागों को उछाला जा रहा है, हवा का रौब डाला जा रहा है, वही बुनियाद है घर की, उसे ही घर से निकाला जा रहा है। इस अनंत उदार आकाश के चिंता रही ज्योतिर्मयी प्रशस्त ललाट की तेजस्विता लिए हुए भारत देश में जो तंत्र चल रहा है वो है लोकतंत्र। मेरे प्रतिपक्षी साथी जिस लोकतंत्र को पश्चिमी अवधारणा बताकर भारत को अवनति के पाषाण युग में धकेलने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, मैं उन्हें बता दूं कि हमारे पुरातन पुरोधाओं ने नहीं चाही थी वह जंगली व्यवस्था जहां हर जानवर के मन में मरने का खौफ हो। लोकतंत्र का सिद्धांत वेदों की ही देन है। सभा और समिति का उल्लेख ऋग्वेद और अथर्ववेद दोनों में मिलता है, जिसमें राजा, मंत्री और विद्वानों से विचार विमर्श करने के बाद ही कोई फैसला लेता था। इनके माध्यम से यह पता चलता है कि उस समय राजनीति कितनी ठोस हुआ करती थी, क्योंकि सभा और समिति के निर्णयों को लोग आपस में अच्छे दृष्टिकोण से निपटाते थे। अर्थात ऐसा कहना बिल्कुल भी गलत नहीं है कि वैदिक काल से ही द्विसदस्यीय संसद की शुरुआत मानी जा सकती है। परतंत्रता की औपनिवेशिक बेड़ियों से छूटकर जब भारत स्वतंत्रता के मुक्ताकाश में आरोहित होने का प्रयास कर रहा था, लेकिन तब हमारे पास एक और था प्राचीनता के वैभव से समृद्ध किंतु औपनिवेशिक शोषण से वितीर्ण एक लंबा इतिहास। तो दूसरी ओर था संसार की सबसे बड़ी आबादी के सपनों का भारत। लेकिन इस अतीत और भविष्य के बीच धर्म, जाति, लिंग, मत, संप्रदाय, नस्ल और क्षेत्रीयता की विविध अस्मिताओं का वर्तमान हमारी आजादी पर मुंह चिढ़ा रहा था। लेकिन ऐसा नहीं था कि तब लोकतंत्र को अपनाने की अवधारणा पश्चिमी देशों से लेनी पड़ी। मौर्य साम्राज्य के पतन के पश्चात ना जाने कितने लोकतांत्रिक गणराज्यों ने जन्म लिया, जहां सत्ता पर किसी एक का एकाधिकार नहीं होता था। शाक्य, लिच्छवी, योधेय, मानव आदि तमाम उदाहरण हमारे सामने मौजूद हैं। तब भी लोकतंत्र था। तब भी कोई सनकी राजा बोलने पर हमारा गला काटने का या हमें जिंदा जला देने का हुक्म नहीं दे देता था। तब भी कोई 30 सेंटीमीटर का बारूद का गोला हमारी आवाजें नहीं दबा देता था। तब भी हम छाती ठोक कर कह सकते थे कि सिंहासन खाली करो, जनता आती है। अपने प्रतिपक्षी वक्ताओं से बस इतना ही कहना चाहूंगा कि लोकतंत्र एक धर्म है, धर्म रक्षति रक्षता। पहले भी लोकतंत्र था और 100% लोकतंत्र एक भारतीय अवधारणा है। अंत में दिनकर जी की पंक्तियों के साथ, समर शेष है इस स्वराज को सत्य बनाना होगा, जिसका है ये न्यास उसे सत्तर पहुंचाना होगा। समर शेष है, समर शेष है, समर शेष है। प्रश्न आमंत्रित हैं।
Now I would like to call slot number 33 for the interjection.
Okay, thank you, madam. Sir, you have said that Sabha and Samiti compared to the democracy. I want to ask a question that you can create any sort of democracy. There, the head of the state or the head of the government, always an elected one. But in case of the king that you are mentioning, he always undergo its monarchical rule, and he only appoint the Sabha and the Samiti. So how can you state it as an example of democracy, because the person who is undertaking the decisions is not an elected one?
जी, बहुत बहुत आभार। आपने चूंकि इंग्लिश में प्रश्न पूछा तो मुझे इतना समझ में नहीं आया, लेकिन फिर भी थोड़ा थोड़ा समझ में आया। तो हमारा जो आज का विषय है वह है लोकतंत्र एक पश्चिमी अवधारणा है। और आपने कहा कि जो प्राचीन काल में हमें देखने को मिलता है, तो पहले भी ऐसा होता था कि जब लोगों के द्वारा जो चुने जाते थे वो पहले गण चुने जाते थे, उनके द्वारा राजा चुना जाता था। ऐसा नहीं था कि कोई वंशानुगत होता था कि राजा का बेटा ही राजा बनेगा। और मैं बता दूं कि मुझे जहां तक याद है, जब मैंने ये पढ़ा तो योधेय जो गणराज्य हुआ करता था उसमें सिर्फ और सिर्फ गणों की संख्या 5000 से अधिक है। तो हाँ, हम ये बिल्कुल नहीं कह सकते हैं कि पूरा का पूरा लोकतंत्र था और प्रत्येक जनता के द्वारा जो चुना जाता था राजा, लेकिन हाँ, गणों के द्वारा चुना जाता था और वो गण वास्तव में बहुत प्रबुद्ध होते थे और उनका एक वर्ग उन सबको मिलके चुनता था, जिसमें अच्छी खासी संख्या थी। तो हम ये कह सकते हैं कि लोकतंत्र तभी था, और हाँ, राजा का बेटा राजा वाली बात तब नहीं थी। धन्यवाद।
Thank you, Arpit. I would like to repeat that your interjection should be in the same language as that of the speaker, regardless of your preferred language. Now, moving forward, I would like to invite slot number 32, Sarveshwar and Ashutosh Rawat. I request the speaker speaking for the motion to take the virtual stage.
Am I visible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. So, good evening, everyone. This is Ashutosh Rawat, and my slot number is 32. My topic is the world does not need any religion, and I will be speaking for the motion. And here start. Religion. What is the first thing which comes up to your mind when I say this word religion? Is it peace? Is it harmony? Is it brotherhood? Absolutely not. The first thing which comes to your mind when I say this word is Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, Christian. And this is where the problem starts. The moment this word gets dropped in a conversation or a conclave, At that very instant, it creates an environment of division and also derails a feeling of brotherhood within a group. Let me tell you, in past, Britishers used this tool of religion to rule our country, and currently our politicians are using this tool of religion to rule our country. We also witness that Europe and other countries where there is a slightly less inclination towards the religion, these countries happens to be many more times developed, pluralistic, whereas the region where the inclination towards the religion is very high, these countries happens to be very much underdeveloped, very unstable, and at some extent, I should say, brutally affected by terrorism. People who say that the religion gives them hope, peace, they are all a bunch of unwise people, because ask a person who is religious that why does he follow his faith. His simple answer will be that if he won't, then he will be never forgiven for his sins by God, then he will not reach heaven, then he won't achieve good things. So eventually it's the fear which drives people to pursue their religion, not any kind of supernatural power. Now let me very blunt with this. The thing which makes a religion needless is its inclusivity, because any society, any group which is made on the basis of accepting no change is an entity which is surely going to get destroyed in future. So the crux comes out to be that the system of religion is just a candy floss. It seems to be sweet for a short time, but for the long run, it's very unhealthy for a system. Thank you. Open for interjection, please.
Now I would like to call slot number 24 for the interjection.
Thank you, ma'am. So, sir, I would like to ask you, don't you think that religion is misinterpreted in this world? Religion never taught to fight or hate some other religion. Religion always promoted harmony, but the communal violence or this misinterpretation, humans are responsible for that. But religion, saying that religion is the bad thing is wrong. What's your take on this?
Okay, so first and the foremost thing with this, the problem with this religion is, as you said, that it never creates hate and it never promotes violence and all. I agree with this, but as I said in my last line, that it is quite inclusive. It is inclusive. It does not welcome changes, and as I said, that an organization which does not welcome change, that is a civilization or organization which is surely going to get destroyed in future. So this is a key problem in this religion. And as far as religion promoting peace and harmony is concerned, then I thought we should be very much more practical with that, because now currently the ground situation is that there is a lot of instability in the whole world just because of this religion. We can say that at some moment it is being misinterpreted, but let me tell you, at some grounds it is being interpreted, and on that grounds only the terrorism is being happened. Thank you.
Thank you. The participant speaking against the motion can now start speaking.
Am I visible?
No, you're not. Now you are.
Sorry. Yeah. First, I will just introduce myself, and with 3 to 1, I will start my. Okay, I am just going to introduce myself. Hello, everyone. I am Sarveshwar, and I am going to. My slot number is 32, and I am going to speak against the motion. My topic is that this house believes that the world does not need religion. And with 3 to 1, I will start, please. 3, 2, 1. It's a tough time to defend religion because respect for it has diminished in every corner of the modern life. But I would still like to argue here that the world needs religion. Religion is energizing as often as it is anesthetizing. As often as it numbs or sedates, it also fortifies the believer. Now, when the question arises that why do we need religion, the answer is quite simple: for our own body. Humans are not just rational creatures, but we are emotional creatures too. I mean, social and psychological tool to help manage our emotions that are unavoidable part of our listener package, and religion is one of those tools. Now, we all that humans are extremely dependent on each other, and not just for acquiring resources or skills, but for feeling well also. Religion provides us, religion contributes to a sense of community, provides support, and offer guidance. Now, for example, when we have lost our loved one, the religion provide us with the most important resource, that is the other people. Religious activities like devotional activities, prayers, songs, etc., etc., gives helps us to manage our emotions and gives us an opportunity to express our care and love for the person in grief or happiness. Now, apart from the above points, religion also inspires us. Really, across the whole world, religion has always a great piece of art, music, poetry, and architecture. Religion has always contributed to the human culture, understand to the concepts such as morality and the of. As I would like to conclude that the irrationality of the religion does not render it unacceptable or valueless. Thank you.
Now I would like to call slot number 13 for the interjection.
Thank you, ma'am. My question to you is that the basic aim of every religion is to just keep people one. Like they basic aim every religion conveys is that oneness. So why do we need to divide it? Like the basic aim is same. So why can't people live in just unity altogether? Why they want to name it and divide themselves, as it only leads to conflicts? So I want to know your opinion on that.
Yeah, thank you for the question. And my answer is that just like every student can't learn from a single teacher, it's just simple that everybody can't learn from a single religion. So everybody needs, according to their, sorry, so they need a religion. Some can be comfortable with like a Hindu religion or some like every other religion. So it's according to them from where they want to learn. That's my answer. Thank you.
Thank you, slot number 32. Just a reminder, we are giving the opportunity to interject to all the teams. So if someone has already interjected once or twice, someone else can ask even if they wrote their slot number at the end. With this, now I request slot number 33, Jahanvi and Praful. I request the participant speaking for the motion to take the virtual stage. Slot number 33, are you there?
Yeah, I am here.
So can you start?
Actually, Janvi has to speak first.
Is she present in the meeting?
Yeah, I think so.
Please check.
Okay, I'm calling her. Please give me 1 minute. Uh, Ma'am, I'm extremely sorry. She actually lost her connectivity. She will be joining in just a minute.
Okay. We have to move forward. So if it is possible, we will be giving you a chance at the end.
Ma'am, can you give a chance after this, because I have another debate right after this.
Okay. Now I request slot number 34, Gunjan and Jahanvi. I request the participants speaking for the motion to take the virtual stage. I request slot number 35, Rakshita and Afshar. I request the participants speaking for the motion to take the virtual stage. Slot number 35, are you there?
जी मैं यही हूँ, मेरी पार्टनर अभी नहीं है, मैं उन्हें बुलाता हूँ, 1 मिनट।
Slot number 33, are you ready? Slot number 35, are you ready?
Am I audible?
Yes, Rakshita, you are.
यह आदरणीय अध्यक्ष महोदय, निश्चित विवेक निर्णायक मंडल, उपस्थित श्रोतागण व मेरे प्रिय साथियों, मैं रक्षिता एक के पक्ष में कि यह सदन मानता है कि भाई भतीजावाद एक छद्म विशेषाधिकार। क्या हमने आज तक सुना है कि किसी बच्चे ने जन्म से पहले ही अपने परिवार की पुष्टि की हो कि वह किस तरह के परिवार का है? क्या हमने कभी ये सुना है कि किसी माता पिता ने अपने बच्चे का चयन किया हो कि वह किस तरह के परिवार, किस तरह का बच्चा होना चाहिए? हाँ, ये एक विशेषाधिकार है। जैसे कि हमारे प्रथम प्रधानमंत्री जवाहरलाल नेहरू
की बेटी इंदिरा गांधी को कांग्रेस की कमान मिली, संभालने को मिली। फिर इंदिरा गांधी के बेटे राजीव गांधी ने अपने बेटे राहुल गांधी को इसकी कमान संभाल रहे हैं। इसी प्रकार उत्तर प्रदेश में मुलायम सिंह यादव के बेटे अखिलेश यादव उसी पार्टी के प्रधान हैं जो कि उन्हें विरासत में मिली है। धीरूभाई अंबानी ने अपने बेटों को विरासत में इतना बड़ा व्यापार दिया, परंतु हम उनकी योग्यता पर प्रश्न चिन्ह नहीं लगा सकते, क्योंकि अखिलेश यादव भी उतने ही योग्य हैं उस पद के लिए। वह मुकेश अंबानी ने अब उसी व्यापार को आज इतना बड़ा कर लिया है। अगर ये लोग योग्य ना होते तो क्या वो इतनी तरक्की कर पाते? नहीं। हमारे भारतीय संस्कृति में राजा का बेटा राजा नहीं बनता, राजा वही बनता है जो योग्य होता है। इसके सजीव उदाहरण हमारे समक्ष हैं। दिल्ली सल्तनत के कुतुबुद्दीन ऐबक के बेटे आराम शाह को सन 1211 में जूड़ के युद्ध में कुतुबुद्दीन ऐबक को 1211 में जूड़ के युद्ध में इल्तुतमिश ने हरा दिया था। मात्र 4 वर्ष के पश्चात रजिया सुल्तान इल्तुतमिश की बेटी को बलबन नाम के एक योग्य सुल्तान ने उन्हें हरा दिया था। वह दिल्ली सल्तनत ने मंगोलों को सुरक्षित कर दिया था। इस विशेषाधिकार का गलत प्रयोग भी किया जाता है। कई बार योग्य होने के बावजूद भी उनका कोई स्थान नहीं मिल पाता, परंतु उस पद की योग्यताओं पर टिके रहते हैं या योग्य द्वारा हटा दिए जाते हैं। यह सत्य है कि यदि कोई किसी उच्च स्थान के व्यक्ति को उस स्थान को प्राप्त करता है तो वह लग्न मेहनत पर परिश्रम होगा, परंतु अगर विशेषाधिकार प्राप्त व्यक्ति उस स्थान पर टिके रहता है तो उसके मेहनत परिश्रम के साथ साथ उसके विशेषाधिकार का भी महत्व होता है। परंतु इस विषय पर
Okay. Now I call slot number 3 for interjection.
सुनाई दे रहा? जी, क्या आप मुझे सुन पा रहे हैं?
Yes, you are audible.
जी, तो आप बोलती हैं कि राजा का बेटा राजा नहीं बनेगा, जो काबिल होगा वही राजा बनेगा। जी महोदय, तो मेरा आपसे प्रश्न ये है कि कम से कम जो है उसे मौका तो मिला राजा बनने का। अगर उसमें काबिलियत नहीं होगी, मैं मानता हूँ कि उसको हटा दिया जाएगा, लेकिन कम से कम एक मौका तो मिला। बहुत से लोग ऐसे हैं जिनको वंशवाद की वजह से मौका ही नहीं मिलता है।
नहीं, शायद आपने मेरी बात को ध्यान से नहीं सुना। मैंने बोला कि दिल्ली सल्तनत में कुतुबुद्दीन ऐबक के बेटे आराम शाह को सन 1211 में जूड़ के युद्ध में हरा दिया गया था, दिल्ली रजिया सुल्तान के पिता इल्तुतमिश ने। लेकिन वो उससे ये साबित नहीं होता कि क्योंकि अगर वो काबिल नहीं होता तो वो उसको हरा नहीं पाता। अगर वो काबिल नहीं था इसीलिए उसने उसको अपनी जगह से हटाया है। शायद मैं आपका जवाब सही दे पा रही हूँ। और रजिया सुल्तान ने सिर्फ मात्र 4 वर्ष तक अपना वो शासन किया है। और उसके बाद सुल्तान बलबन ने उसकी जगह ले ली थी। सुल्तान बलबन भी एक मामूली आदमी था, उसी ने उसकी जगह ली थी। तो हम ऐसे नहीं कह सकते कि हम किसी को उसका वो नहीं पाया कि वो कर नहीं सकता बात के लिए, नहीं, लेकिन उसने किया था वो। होप यू अंडरस्टैंड इट।
जी महोदय।
Okay, thank you.
I request participants speaking against the motion to start speaking.
क्या आप मुझे सुन और देख पा रहे हैं?
Yes.
ठीक है, मैं अक्सर अजमेरी स्लॉट संख्या 35 से पक्ष की भाई भतीजावाद एक छद्म विशेषाधिकार है के विपक्ष में अपना तर्क प्रस्तुत करता हूँ। मेरे 3 गिनने के साथ आप गिनती शुरू कर दीजिए। 1 2 3। महोदय, मैं इस पक्ष के विरोध में अपने तर्क प्रस्तुत करता हूँ कि भाई भतीजावाद एक छद्म विशेषाधिकार है। जानिए इसका इतिहास क्या है। भाई भतीजावाद एक पश्चिमी अवधारणा है जो 17वीं सदी के उत्तरार्ध में कैथोलिक ईसाई पादरियों में विद्यमान थी। वो पादरी क्योंकि ब्रह्मचर्य का पालन करते थे, इसलिए उनकी अपनी कोई संतान नहीं होती थी। वे अपने भाई के बेटों और बहन के बेटों को चर्च के उच्च पदों पर आसीन कर देते थे। कालांतर में यह प्रथा ईसाई धर्म से निकल अन्य धर्मों में प्रवेश की और आज यह कुरीति धर्म की दीवार फैलाकर राजनीति, खेल, मनोरंजन, व्यापार, उद्योग और न जाने कितने समाज के वर्गों और क्षेत्रों में प्रवेश कर चुकी है और समाज को अंदर से अंदर खाए जा रही है। भाई भतीजावाद एक ऐसी बुरी अवधारणा है जो समाज को अंदर से खोखला कर देती है, और इसका एक बहुत ही प्रखर उदाहरण भारत में एक कथित राजनीतिक दल की घटती हुई प्रतिष्ठा है, क्योंकि वहां भाई भतीजावाद अपना घर कर चुका है। एक और उदाहरण लेते हैं। अभी हाल ही में एक खेल विशेष की मुख्य समिति का अध्यक्ष या सचिव एक ऐसे व्यक्ति को बना दिया गया जिसका उस खेल से कोई भी संबंध नहीं था, सिर्फ इसलिए क्योंकि उसका पिता सत्ता में एक उच्च पद पर आसीन है। किंतु इससे भारतीय खेल जगत की कितनी हानि हुई है और उसका कितनी प्रतिष्ठा का हनन हुआ है, ये सब इससे वाकिफ हैं। और उस व्यक्ति को ढंग से भाषण भी देना नहीं आता महोदय, तो क्या ये भाई भतीजावाद की कुरीति का परिणाम नहीं है? एक और उदाहरण लेते हैं कि लोग जो ये कह रहे हैं कि यहाँ पे व्यक्ति भाई भतीजावाद के कारण आ तो जाता है किंतु टिकता है अपनी योग्यता के कारण ही, तो क्या ये उस व्यक्ति के समय का हनन नहीं है जो योग्य है? उदाहरण के लिए कोई व्यक्ति 4 बार किसी काम में विफल हो गया, किसी पद को पाने में विफल हो गया, केवल इसलिए क्योंकि कुछ लोगों ने अपने संबंधियों को उसके ऊपर प्राथमिकता दी। 5वीं बार भी यदि उसके साथ ऐसा ही होता है और वो व्यक्ति जो नियुक्ति करता है वो ये सोचता है कि यदि मेरा संबंधी विफल रहा तो मैं उसके स्थान पर इसे ले लूंगा, किंतु उस समय अपनी तात्कालिक विफलता को आधार मानकर यदि वो व्यक्ति अपनी आत्महत्या जैसा कठोर कदम उठाता है तो इसका जिम्मेदार कौन होगा? इसका जिम्मेदार ये कुरीति ही होगी, भाई भतीजावाद की कुरीति होगी, और इसका समाज को विरोध करना चाहिए। ये किसी का छद्म विशेषाधिकार हो ही नहीं सकता है। मैं इसके पूरे विरोध में।
Thank you. As there are no interjections, we will be moving forward. Is team 33 ready? Praful, is your partner in the meeting?
Unfortunately, no, ma'am. She is not able to join. So I don't think so that she will be able to join now. So can I undergo my speech?
Actually, I'm sorry for the inconvenience. I joined before, but suddenly the call dropped down due to the elect power cut.
Who was this? Who spoke before?
Ma'am, she is my partner, Janvi.
Okay.
Okay, ma'am, we are ready now. You can undergo. Thank you so much I'm sorry for the inconvenience.
Okay, the participant speaking for the motion can take the virtual stage.
Hello, am I audible and visible both?
Yes, you are.
Okay. So good afternoon. Topic given to us that House believes that the Berlin Wall should be built. So I'm Jahnavi, I'm student of NIT Trichy, and I'd like to proceed forward with your permission. May I?
Yes,
I can't see the timer. Okay, so I strongly believe when I went through the book, The Wall, I came to know the person said through his interview, it will take just one generation for the unification to be successful. But the reality is that in his most recent interview, he said it would take more generations for the unification to be successful. That means it requires to build the wall again because it hasn't brought any changes. Because East German economy was completely moribund at that time and lost of the job. So what is the use of the democracy if the people are losing the jobs and becoming the life of the poor? And when we talk about the unification, it talks about the equal opportunity for both the parts of the country, but it doesn't seem. But this is not a reality. Even if we look at the mentality of the people, in the East, it was a communism, while in the West, it was a capitalism. And the perception the people have in the West about the East is completely that these are the successors of the Nazism, and they don't treat them equally. Neither they give them opportunities equally because it's completely there in their mind. At the same time, the East German people, they have been thought like they are the one who fought against the Nazis, why they should atone or owe the reparations to the West in that terms. So there seems a lot of economic equality in both the regions, as well as even there are cultural differences, even in the terms of a society. If we look, there was a paradigm shift from the communist, the people went to the west, but still there is a huge gap that has to be bridged. So that's what I believe. The unification has not been successful, and due to this income disparities and unequal opportunities, and also the hatred among the people in both the societies, the wall should be built again, because one part of the city cannot be actually successful at the cost of the another. So this is not the true success of a unification. That's why there is a need to build this wall again. Thank you.
Now I call slot number 43 for the interjection.
Yeah, thank you. So first of all, I would like to provide you with a point that, you know, if two sections are having disparities, then we cannot say that they are not equal and we should just separate them. If that was the case, then even now India with Hindus and the Muslims, we would have been divided into multiple nations today. Further, I also believe that, you know, if there is something like income disparity, then instead of bringing up a wall, bringing up the Berlin Wall again, I feel that something like taking inspiration from our own country, let's say India, we have built the Statue of Unity, any such kind of thing. If that can be made, and that will not only give money to the section that is economically weaker, it will give them money, and they can build upon that. The tourism will favor more, and even something like this that has a Statue of Unity that will bring both the groups together and not separate them wide apart. So what are your views on this?
Okay, if we talk about India, it's a kind of a mixed economy. It's not a communist or a capitalist. It's a mixed economy, and there is a unity in diversity in a country where even despite of the cultural differences, we are united, because these have been even in the past, and because these have been taught to us since the traditions. But if we look at the Germany, if the East Germany, completely the industries have been collapsed after this wall, because of this wall controversy, after the people started migrating. So even the people believe today, what is the use of the democracy if they still have to live poor and they don't have the jobs? And even if the economy gets deteriorated in the one part of the region, how can we stabilize that thing? So that's why the wall has to be built again, so that the opportunities could be revived back. And we can't do in terms of if the people still treat them as a Nazis. Even we as a Indian, if we think about the Britishers, we think they owe the reparations to us. This is the same kind of mentality even the West have about the East, that they owe the reparations and they have to be atoned by them. So it will take a generations. Even the person who wrote this book Wall, so completely the Berlin Wall, the scenario has been described in this book. If the author is also claiming, it would take more generations for the unification, because it has not been yet successful in the Germany. So we strongly believe the wall has to be built again.
Thank you. Now I request the participant speaking against the motion to take over the virtual stage.
Okay, so am I audible and visible? Hello?
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you. So you can start the counting on 1, 2, 3. Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. This side Praful Dwivedi. I'll be speaking against the motion, and my slot is 33. 1, 2, 3. Now you can start. United we stand, divided we fall. This phrase not only exists in its immature terms in the folks only. The person and the nation who has able to achieve this in its real meaning is Germany. United we stand and divided we fall. The West and the East Germany are able to gather the strength with which they are ruling the top economies of today. We all have to witness this fact that after the Treaty of Versailles and the World War II, the Berlin Wall has been established to make two distinct regions of Germany between East and West, where we are not able to see. In the Olympics also, the West Germany always have considered to be a winner, and I always want to see West Germany written. But unification of Germany always proved my wish true. And it played a very important role not only in making the world understand that even after division, unification can take place. If you consider all the other examples, whether it is Austria-Hungary, whether it is Belgium and Holland, all these things have undergone destruction and they are never able to unite again. It is not a fact that they haven't prospered. They have prospered, but not as a unified country anymore. But Germany has presented a exemplary example when it proved that even after unification, it can able to achieve that growth, which as a separate nation, a person can aim. Therefore, even if you consider in every fact, whether it is G4, G20, or even in the economic spirit too, Germany is the sole area of the world responsible for every advancement. From Nobel Prize to Miss World contest, Germany has proved a unification for the entire world. Therefore, I think that instead of following the regimes of those countries which are not able to unite even after undergo destruction, we have to set and follow the example of Germany, which after having so much of difficulty is able to unite. Thank you.
As there were no interjections, we will be moving forward with slot number 24, Manisha Negi. Manisha, are you there?
Yeah, first of all, I would like to confirm if I am audible and visible.
Yes, Manisha, you are.
Okay, so myself, Manisha Negi, my slot number is 24, and I'm going to present my views against the motion. That is, the House believes that the world does not need religion. I would start on the count of 3, 2, and 1. Jesus said, "Those who believed without evidence have a purer faith than those who demanded proof. Blessed are the ones who have not seen and yet not believed." Likewise, Krishna said to Arjuna in Mahabharata, chapter 4, verse 14, and I quote, "Neither in this world nor anywhere else is there any happiness for him who always doubts." For most of the history, religion has been the central focus of human concern. But now, in larger part of the world, it became a sideshow or even an irrelevance because it has been declared untrue by the apparently most powerful force of our age, science. But my question is, if we analyze the depth of atoms, if we observe the physics of galaxies and the chemistry of hormones, will we be able to monitor the concept like truthfulness or lying, faithfulness or betrayal? A big no is a clear answer, ladies and gentlemen. Deriding belief or faith as religious or outdated is actually commit intellectual suicide. From Galileo and Newton to Maxwell and Faraday, all were believers in God, and indeed, from 1900 to 2000, over 65% Nobel Prize winners were also people of faith. 8 in 10 atheists in 2013 celebrated Christmas, and that is by definition being religious, I believe. But I do not subscribe to this view. I would rather like to argue here that those who abandon religion should be ready to forswear religious activities. They should stop celebrating Diwali, Holi, Christmas, and Eid. I wonder, ladies and gentlemen, how dazzlingly bright would be their life after this desertion. Not only this, but outrightly denying religion would also mean to neglect holy books then. I ask my opposition speakers, should we bury our holy Gita, Quran, and Bible then? Religion is never the problem, ladies and gentlemen. It's the people who misuse it. Religion is faith, it's a way of life. It's a difference between humans and animals. Thank you.
I call slot number 43 for the interjection.
So yeah, Manisha, I very well like your words, but I have just a single question that even in our own country we have seen a lot of things. The sick people have tortured and killed a person just a few weeks back. Further, there were riots in UP on the basis of religion. So why don't you think that at this position when humans are fighting for their survival with especially with COVID and all such things of directly attacking us, unity is something that is lacking behind, and this religion disparity burns that fire up, and people are getting more far by the main concept of religion.
So with the prior permission of the chair, I would like to answer your question, and my time starts here. First of all, thank you for your question. you said that religion is something which increases violence. For that, I would like to say that please mention me the name of any one holy book of the world which mentions clearly that do violence, kill people, and do not spread harmony. The main
Quran.
aim of every religious book is to only and only spread harmony. Moreover, you said that during the times of COVID also, religion was a problem. I would rather like to say that you have some flawed beliefs, because COVID was a time when religion gave hope and faith to the people. Many people say we don't have proof, but I would like to mention here the theory of the will of belief by, it's a doctrine by William James, who says that we don't have proof of anything, but we have the will to believe. And if these beliefs bring a positive change in our life, then why should we deny to believe it? No one can prove it, but if not, I'm saying that yes, it definitely brings a positive change in our life. And there is no religion, as far as my knowledge, which clearly says that kill people and do bloodshed. Thank you.
Thank you. So now I'd like to call the next slot, Richa Singh and Sudeep Krishna. I request the participants speaking for the motion to go ahead.
Yeah, so am I audible and clearly visible?
Yes, you're audible and visible. You can start.
So first of all, I will be introducing myself, and on the count of 3, you may start the timer. So this house believes evictions of Palestinian families in East Jerusalem was regretful, and I, Richa Singh, slot number 36, stands vehemently for the motion. I want the timer to start at the count of 3. So 3, 2, and 1. The greatness of humanity is not in being human, but in being humane. APJ Abdul Kalam had famously said and rather lamented that today we have guided missiles but misguided men. Growing up, introducing myself was a persistent gamble when I inevitably would say that I was a Palestinian. The words would taste heavy with reluctance. They were never just accepted as a crucial part of my identity, but instead as a political statement, an invitation for debate, and in some unfortunate cases, an incitement of blatant racism. Still, I consider myself lucky that I grew up in Southeast Asia and not, say, the United States, where saying you were a Palestinian could be considered an act of verbal terrorism until maybe last year. Needless to say, receiving this kind of reaction was always frustrating. Containing the exasperation has gotten easier. To us, there is very distinct similarity between Palestinian anger and female anger. When you describe your oppression, you are often belittled, dismissed, and infantilized, which only serves to exasperate our irritation. But being a fervently nostalgic people, maintaining this even temperament seems to be unrealistic for most Palestinians, particularly when we are told to our faces that the country is not real, or when we wake up to news of another child dead. It provokes the kind of rage that makes you stare daggers at a tub of hummus in the middle of a supermarket because it was created by an Israel company that profits from stealing our culture. For the Palestinians who managed to stay behind, the discrimination and violence they face from the Israel state have become part of their daily lives. Israel's actions have been so unjust that Watchdog Human Rights Watch, along with other organizations, has labeled Israel's current legal system as perpetuating apartheid. Thank you.
I request slot number 43 to ask the question for the interjection.
Thank you. So Richa, you said that it's rather Israel's fault, and it is not something that can be justified. But what I feel is that someone cannot be blamed for having to claim his land back. See, the point here is the Palestinians are basically the Arabs whose main predominancy was in the region of Syria, Jordan, and Egypt. So don't you think that these are the main regions, and from these regions the Arabs shifted and formatized formatized and lived up in the area of Israel, and it was basically of the Jews' land, and now that they are reclaiming it back, so then it's a wrong, and the Arabs should shift back to the exact location that they came from in the first place.
Okay, so to add to your answer, I want the timer to start from now. Okay, so if you remember what the Balfour Declaration in 1970 had undertaken to ensure the establishment of a national home for Jews, and with the passing of, if you remember, the Land Transfer Ordinance in 1921, which served the customary link between the land occupancy and land ownership. So the word Zionist, if you remember, my friend, organization where the, Jewish National Fund and the Jewish Agency for Israel, purchased their land, especially from absentee Lebanese, Syrian, and even Egyptian entrepreneurs, carried with it the possibility of evicting its tenants. So it was by 1930, if you remember, that 10% of the country's rural population were, tenants, and this would have led to increasingly, vulnerable to eviction. So most of the Palestinians in 1948, as I have discussed in my debate as well, that around 7 lakh of these citizens were, evicted from Israel, in specifically East Jerusalem. Thank you.
Thank you, Richa. Now I request the participant speaking against the motion to start.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Before I speak, I'd like to get a clarification. Am I clearly visible and audible?
Yes, you're clearly audible and visible.
All right, ma'am. So I'll just introduce myself and thereafter you can start the time. So, ma'am, I'm Sudeep Krishna. I'll be speaking against the motion. I believe the House is very well aware about the motion in which I'm speaking. So on a count of 3, I'll be speaking. 3, 2, 1. Feeble beliefs have to be replaced with healthier habits, and irrelevant assumptions have to be replaced with relevant realities. Today, Honorable Chairperson, much of the ink has been spilled on the very idea of Israel and the Palestinians. But in the course of rhetorics, all we missed was the facts. Honorable Chairperson, let me tell you the fact. The very idea, the very eviction of the Palestinians from East Jerusalem is not a political act, but it is a personal litigation that is filed by a personal company in the court of Israel. And in that particular legislation and that particular judgment, only the 10 families belonging to the Sheikh Jarrah region are being forced to evict because that land belongs to the Jews. Honorable Chairperson, and that whole act is also being done in the very resemblance with the previous legislation, which allows a Jew to reclaim its property back only after he or she gives the legitimate proof to that property. Honorable Chairperson, since that being said, and the whole world is against Israel for obvious reasons, the fact remains very crystal clear that in the present domain, all we have to understand that are we going to allow ourselves to be governed by illusion, or are we going to figure it out? Honorable Chairperson, let me remind you that we live in a world where there exist treaties like Treaty of Westphalia. We have a treaty of territorial sovereignty and doctrine of eminent domains. And Honorable Chairperson, that are the very testament to the fact. While delivering a long judgment, the Supreme Court of Israel very clearly said that now making all these refugees out of their land would be a clear injustice and violation of human rights. And therefore, the Supreme Court of Israel said that these particular communities should not be allowed to move, and therefore there is a high time that they go under a compromise. Honorable Chairperson, it was much after the Palestinians refused to the compromise that today they were forced, as per the eviction orders that was given by the Supreme Court in the due process of law. And Honorable Chairperson, at last, I would only say that human rights, the rhetoric idea of human rights could never be used to perpetuate the illegality, because it's very easy for us to sit within the 4 walls and talk about the human rights, but the law must prevail as it's supposed to prevail. Thank you so much.
I'd like to call slot number 20 for the interjection.
Thank you, Uzi, for the recognition. So my question to the speaker is, what makes you suggest that it was a legal affair, rather not political, when it is only the Israeli court who passed the verdict and there were no Palestinian stand for that? What makes you believe that it was a legal affair?
Thank you so much, ma'am. To begin with, the very reason that you question my legal acumen is the fact that I am personally pursuing law and I know the law and the practice of law. To tell you in detail, suppose I believe that you are not having that legal jurisdiction knowledge, and therefore whenever a case that is being brought to the adjudication falls under the legal peripheral ambit, the territorial ambit of that particular territory, then that particular legislation falls into the ambit of the requisite forums. And that is a hierarchy of forums. The local level forums, the high courts, Supreme Courts, and every country has its own jurisdiction. And as far as what makes me believe that particular legislation was not a state-owned affair rather than a personal affair was the very fact that the particular case, when it was filed in the Supreme Court of Israel, that particular case was not filed by the government, but by a private companies, which was representing a joint suit of interest by several Jew owners who had the rightful claims over the property, who have presented the documents of the property, and they have still argued with the Palestinians to allow them to give the rent. They were not asking for the possession; they were only asking for the rent for the 7 decades, and they were ready to forego the rent of 7 decades. They were willing to charge the rent from the present day, for which the Palestinians refused. And that were only 10 families. We need not make it a global affair. It was only for the 10 families, and that particular affair is today the hot
Your
potato
time's up.
of the leftist ideologies of the world. Thank you so much.
So next up, we have the slot number 37, Madiha Ahmed and Sarthak Khandelwal. I request the participant speaking for the motion to go ahead.
Am I visible and audible?
Yes, you're clearly visible and audible.
Okay, fine. So first I would like to introduce myself, and after that, on the count of 3, you can please begin the timer. I am Sarthak. I'll be speaking on motion E. This house believes that change is not progress. I'll be speaking for the motion. So on the count of 1, 2, 3, let's begin. Ever heard leaders say change is progress? If not, you must have come across that phrase somewhere. Well, just hold on to your thoughts. It's too soon to be mesmerized by that ideology. Change, by its definition, is about being in a state different than what you are in right now. Change as a concept is directionless. It is like, I don't like this place, let's move. Purpose, however, has direction. It is about moving towards something better. In the rat race of 21st century, there's a lot of talk about moving faster, changing faster than the world in order to stay relevant. But people and organizations change all the time. New strategies, new schedules, new skills, and the never-ending cycle of second-guessing themselves. Yet they fall behind the world. Now, what they actually lack is a coherent direction. Change for the sake of change is never the way to do it. Change for the sake of change has nothing to do with a true innovation, fostering creativity, or learning new necessary skills in order to stay competitive. You know, change can harm a lot to the person or a society, and it can be even imposed upon you. Now, for instance, COVID-19 introduced us to a completely different lifestyle, and would you call it a progress? No, it was a resilience. It was our adapting to the crisis that led us to better revenues. Similarly, in 1947, the feat our forefathers achieved, would it be termed as simply a change in government? Well, changes are often initiated by fear, but purpose is driven by aspirations and a desire to improve. You cannot impose purpose on someone. You have to make a deliberate choice to be purposeful. Now, if you still don't believe the two are different, I'll remind you of an infamous German leader who wanted to eliminate a complete community just because it didn't appease him. Now, if you still call that progress, I would suggest you never visit Israel without armed guards. Now, remember, change is an experiment, and based on its result, we do calculations and we achieve progress. Progress and change are not similar. They are not equal. Thank you.
Since there were no interjections, I'd like to call the participant against the motion.
I hope I'm loud and clear.
Yes, you're loud and clear. You can go ahead.
So I'm Madhya Ahmed, and I'm here to speak against the motion that change is not progress. Before I begin, I would like to tell the panel that due to time constraint, I've divided my debate into 4 parts. First is the introduction. Second has some points to prove my stance. Third has some points to oppose my opponents. And fourth is the conclusion. And I'll be beginning at the count of 3, 2, 1. 29 December 2019, the day when I attended my first debate. Totally bewildered, having seen all the pro debaters before me, I somehow gathered the courage to go up on stage and present my views. And nothing. I had a total blackout on the stage at that moment. And that's how my first debate went. It made me question each of my capabilities, and feelings of insecurities came rushing. Never in my life have I ever had so many psychosocial changes. However, days later, I realized how this has only made me realize that I need to work on myself. And since then, I started to transform. And here I am today, right in front of you speaking. Not saying that I have reached a milestone, but I've come a long way. which was only possible because of that change in the mindset that restored my faith in myself. Change or transitions are an inevitable part of your life, and it is always for good. They are your ticket out of any situation. You will find yourself progressing onto better things and to bigger things each time. Each change is an invitation to try a new experience or to take an advantage of a new opportunity. And even in the worst of the case, a change that you think has hampered your success has at least taught you flexibility, among a lot of other things. Like you and to move forward, you will discover that did not lead you to where you want to be. Participants before me mentioned that progress is a result of change, but not all change brings progress, and forgot to mention the fact that without change, things stay at the same place and ultimately will stagnate and die. What is the difference between a living thing and a dead? Our definition of dead is the body that does not change. Notice how a river doesn't run dry. Even in the peak of summer, you will still see a bleak stream of water still flowing. While if you notice a paddy field, which is flooded with water, by the way, is the same as the water in paddy fields. Person not changing is the same as the water in paddy fields, stagnant and as good as dead. While a person changing is moving, is like ever-flowing river and keeps moving and flowing and advancing constantly. Thank you.
Thank you. Slot number 12. Please ask the interjection.
Yeah, thank you. So, ma'am, you mentioned in your speech that change is always good, right? But don't you think in today's world that major list of change that we want is often inevitably driven by social media influences and certainly not self-development and therefore progress?
I could not understand your question. Could you please try to reframe it?
All right. Okay, ma'am, in your speech, you mentioned change is always good, right? Change is absolutely good. But don't you think in today's world, a list of changes that we want in ourselves is often driven by the social compulsions, impulsions, and influences, right? Which is certainly not self-development and progress.
Well, I think that is your way of thinking and not mine. It totally depends on perspective. Okay, for me, a change is something that I want to inculcate to prove myself better, to become a better human being. I guess that answers your question.
Thank you, Madhya. Now I request the participant speaking against the motion to please go ahead. Sarthak, are you there in the meeting?
Yeah, sorry. What did you just say? I missed it. Hello?
Yes, you can go ahead.
This is Sarthak. Did you say Sarthak or Satvik?
Sarthak, have you already spoken your stance?
Yeah, I think there's some confusion. Now we have to move ahead with the slot. So I think we'll be going with slot number 38. Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. Slot number 38, Karthik Dubey and Shivam Kharbanda. I request the participant speaking for the motion to go ahead.
This is slot number 38. Please confirm whether I'm audible and visible.
Yes, you're audible and visible.
Okay, perfect. So I'd want the judges to note first that my name is Karthik Dubey. I'm speaking in favor of the motion, and the name of this stance is that this house believes that the philosophy of wantlessness is utopian, whereas materialism is chimera. Assuming that the judges have noted this down, I would start my debate with the count of 3 in 2 and 1. So let's imagine a world where wantlessness is achievable everyone would renounce worldly living and become an ascetic. But what would happen to the foundations of the society on which we are based? In that case, we would be led astray from the course of events transpiring in the nature. And even as a result, the mere existence of mankind would come under threat. So even this debate, to be specific, wouldn't be taking place if that course of nature was to take place, of course. Philosophizing wantlessness is like telling a fish to climb a tree. Even our physiological needs of hunger, thirst, and lust are also our primal desires. And if we are to let go of these desires, then we will surely perish. And the human spaces, mostly the human species, would cease to exist. Moreover, the world is simply not made for perfection. It doesn't even know a definition such as perfection. But ironically, everyone wants to undertake the path to perfection. The ideal sense of lifestyle, which is pedestalized by a large number of people, is nothing but a mirage in this desert of capitalistic world. True that we cannot live without our desires, but this does not mean that we would start obsessing over our material gains and our material wants. The term scarcity mentality has been coined by Stephen Covey. Scarcity mindset is something which further leads to greed because the people think that we already have a less of what we are possessing. Further, the communist philosophy, which was propagated by Karl Marx, it talks about that communist utopia, a perfect class, a perfect state of world where no class differences exist. Everyone is treated as equal. But my question is, wouldn't it bring the entire mankind back to square one, the primitive ages? Wouldn't we call it an evolutionary de-evolution of that society, of our society? So this leads us to a concluding question that what should one do? The result is replete with the dualities of win, loss, or life and death, on and off, left and right. Which side to choose is the real question. Isn't the want of finding God also
Your time's
classified
up.
as a desire? Thus, I'd lastly say that to live in the present is the philosophy which has been constituted by various people. And with that, I conclude my speech for this wonderful debate topic. I wish everyone present here all the very best. Thank you.
Now I'd like to call slot number 12 for the interjection.
Thank you. Sir, in your speech, you mentioned that how without want, human species will cease to exist. Sir, we need to understand that that will only happen when they are deprived of the basic shelter or the food, which I necessarily define. Don't you think that should be necessarily defined as basic need and not want? Because want is endless, right? What is your stance on that?
Please start the timer when I say to. Yes. So see, ma'am, your pre-assumptions about the meaning of wants is a little flawed, because I would like to correct you that even the basic primal instincts like hunger, thirst, and lust, these are also classified as desires. In a sense, we desire to eat food because we are hungry. And if we are not hungry, this simply means that we are dead, because this is something which has been ingrained in our system. So this is something which is central to the philosophy of humankind, and even from the evolutionary terms. When people talk about evolutionary societies, it's basically that people tend to grow. It leads to the growth of their potential. And this can certainly happen if we go hand in hand with these different wants. But just to sum up your question and the answer to that, it's basically that the wants is a very subjective term, but overall it uses up or it encapsulates all the meanings, such as the basic human desires. Thank you.
Now I request the participant speaking against the motion to take over the virtual stage.
Am I visible and audible to all of you?
Yes, you're visible and audible.
All right, so my name is Shivam Kharbanda and my slot is 38. Stance is against the motion and motion is F. So you can start the timer right now. Before moving into this topic, I would like to explain you this topic in 4 terms: evolution, psychology, culture, and society. Let's start with evolution. Now, as in terms of evolution, we have 2 basic components. First is survival, second is reproduction. Be it you, be it me, be it your parents, be it a dog on the street, be it a homeless person, be it the president of the United States, everybody, we are hardwired, or we are programmed to survive, to put basic food, water in our mouth, and to reproduce. And in reproduction, it is a very deep concept that we are always searching for better quality mates so that our offspring is of more quality. And for that, we pursue materialistic things. Now, if we go into psychological, Abraham Maslow hierarchy needs, he suggested that money, power, fame are the utmost priority for an individual. Self-esteem is the utmost priority, not the utmost priority, but still, these are the basic needs. And if we talk about in the perspective of culture, I would like to quote from Hindu mythology. There are 4 motives of this life. First is dharma. These are English words. Dharma, that means purpose, your mission. Second is arth, that is money, which you generate from this purpose. Third is kam, that is pleasure of the senses. It explores sexuality, it explores music, art, dance, and the 64 arts written in the Kama Sutra book. And last is moksha, that is liberation. That is the realization of supreme conscious self, where the soul realizes that it has freed itself from cycles of birth and death, and then wantlessness automatically arrives. All right. And last, I will talk about from the society point of view. Look at the billionaires which have crossed 70 years of age, Warren Buffett, Ratan Tata. They all get into philanthropy because they have completed purpose, money, pleasure of the senses, and now they are into the liberation phase. All right. So with this, I would like to conclude. And Warren Buffett also said that I will leave enough money for my children so that they can do anything, but I'll not leave enough money for them to do nothing. That's it. Thank you.
Now I'd like to call slot number 16 for the interjection.
Thank you for the recognition. I'd like to ask you, sir, that you just mentioned in your speech that self-esteem is of utmost importance. Would you like to elaborate on that point? Do you think that somebody with low self-esteem can't survive?
Absolutely. He cannot, you can start a timer. He or she cannot survive without self-esteem. Why we are here in this debate competition? Either we are motivated by cash prize, all right? Either we are motivated by the self-esteem, which we'll get after winning this, or we are here to learn something. These are the 3 basics. So self-esteem is very necessary. And if you, again, I would like to quote from evolution. If you look at a species, we have conquered and built so many civilizations into this world to feel better, because the primary instinct comes from survival and reproduction. For that, self-esteem is very much necessary. That's it.
Thank you, Shivam. So, we'll move forward to the next slot. Slot number 39, Shauryadeep Ghosh and Rishwav Chatterjee.
Hi, hello. Am I visible and audible?
Yes, you're audible and visible. Are you speaking for the motion?
Yeah, I'll be speaking for the motion, and the topic is this house believes that democracy is a Western concept. I will be speaking in favor of the motion.
Okay, then you can start.
Yeah, start the timer. Hello, everyone. I'll be speaking in favor of the motion. Firstly, I would like to remind you that the very word democracy has a Western origin. The word comes from 2 Greek words, demos and karthos, which means power to the people. Not only that, Greek civilization, which is one of the ancient civilizations in the history of the world, has a book called The Republic, written by one of their greatest philosophers, Plato, which particularly talks about democracy as a concept and one of the concept of governing a particular state or a polis. Not only that, they have their, one of their greatest historian, Herodotus, who wrote quite a few books in which he particularly describes and depicts the Athenian governmental system, which is the system that worked in the province of Athens, where the democratic rules, the democratic principle, the democratic structure were followed to the deepest core. And this is a particular example, which is one of the earliest examples of democracy in written books or in the implementation of a particular policy or a state. Now coming to much more modern times, French Revolution and Russian Revolution, the two greatest anti-monarchical revolution or movement that happened, particularly happened in the history of Europe. And both of these movements were controlled and dominated by the people. Both of these movements worked and functioned against 300-400 years old monarchical regime and monarchical establishment. In both the cases, these two movement and revolutions particularly sparked the ideas of democracy across states and across various parts of Europe. Coming to furthermore mention of Mazzini and Garibaldi, who particularly particularly talked about the ideals of democracy as the two first forefathers of the ideals of democracy in Europe. Reason why many Eastern countries and many Oriental countries, leaders like Jawaharlal Nehru and many others particularly referred to Garibaldi and Mazzini when it comes to democratic understanding. So from this perspective, we can understand the origin of democracy obviously happened in the West, and then through colonization, spread it across the Eastern region to the Oriental countries during the colonial period. And there, I raise my case in favor of the motion.
Now I'd like to call slot number 45 for the interjection.
Okay, am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible.
Yeah, so just because democracy is a Western word, you can't say that democracy is a Western concept. For example, what democracy means? Democracy means to the people, for the people, by the people. So if you will take the history of our own country, what were the rulers' first choice? That they will work for their pupil, and whenever there is problem comes to the pupil, they will always be stand for their pupils. So I just want you to elaborate that topic.
Yeah, first of all, let me remind you that the very phrase that you used of the people, for the people, by the people is a phrase that was coined by Abraham Lincoln, who was the first president of liberated America, and that also is a Western country and Western continent. Now, coming to elaborate your point, obviously I didn't only say that democracy, the word had an Western origin. I also talked about how Athens, which was a province in ancient Greek, even before the birth of Christ, had their ruling system or their governmental system in the form of democracy. Democracy was there not only as a word or as a theoretical idea or as a concept. It was actually implemented as a form of governance in Athens and many other provinces of Greece. Also, I particularly talked about French Revolution and Russian Revolution in the context of how people opted for democracy or demanded democracy even in the high times of monarchy in the history of Europe. That is particularly how I tried to establish how democracy is not only original word, but actually is a implementation and reality in Europe.
Thank you. Now I request the participant speaking against the motion to take over the virtual
Can you
stage.
confirm if I'm visible and audible?
Yes, you're audible and visible.
All right, so I'm Shorjit Ghosh speaking against the motion, motion G, that this house believes democracy is a Western concept, and my slot number is 39. So you can start the timer. Learned House understand that just because the term in English was coined by the West does not mean that democracy belongs to the West. If we turn back the pages of our nation's history to a time when the nation was not coined as India, let's go back to the kingdoms of Akbar or the Mauryas. We'll see that on various instances for various matters, the kings used to consult the people or consult the mass before taking the decisions. So understand that even at such monarchical times, there was a bit of concept of democracy prevalent. Now understand a comparison, Learned House, that even in England, monarchy prevailed for a long period of time, but they on themselves evolved into a democratic country. So what would have stopped India from evolving to a democratic country way back if we were not colonized by the West itself, to which this motion is giving credit for spreading democracy. Under Learned House, that we are crowning the West for being the forefathers of democracy, whereas the West has colonized most of the eastern part of the world, and taken away their freedom, their self-development, and the way of life as they would have changed to democracy. Understand that the West were the victimizers by colonizing, let's say, present-day India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, or even Hong Kong and China, which was under the control of England. Understand that the West took away the freedom of these nations to turn into a democratic nation of their own. And also understand this, Learned House, that it is not just the matter that after the West went away from the eastern part of the world, democracy came in. That is not the case. If we look at several verses, let's say two of our writers from Bengal, if we look at Rabindranath Tagore, at various verses in the pre-independent era, he has spoken about the democratic nature that we can achieve. So understand this motion falls on the very ground that they are crowning West for the advent of democracy, but that is not the case. India in itself could have achieved democracy. Thank you.
Now I'd like to call slot number 38 for the interjection.
Thank you, ma'am, for the recognition. My interjection to the speaker is, you have said that West has colonized. I would like to remind you, USA was itself colonized. And second thing you have said about the Mughal Empire do you think that the democracy in the Mughal Empire, do you think the reign of Aurangzeb was democratic or even it was monarchical?
Okay, since you can start the timer, organizers. Since your question is twofold, understand that your reference to America is very narrow, because we don't just, America is not the only Western country. This is because you are looking at a Western power bloc which revolves around America as its center, but that is not the West. Even Europe is West. So you need to understand that when we are mentioning West, England or the Western European countries that was at time, let's refer to the west of the Berlin Wall, that part is also considered as the West when we are talking about the Western part of the world. And your reference to the Mughal empires, understand that you picked up one ruler and you think that that ruler was, not a democratic one. Even in today's world, many of us can have different opinions about the present regime or the regime before that. That is a perception that this present government is not democratic or that government was not democratic. So by picking up one example doesn't defeat does not uphold the motion. So this motion falls by giving credit to the West for the advent of democracy. Thank you.
Thank you. So now I'd like to call slot number 40, Riya Singh and Adrika Singh. I request the participant speaking for the motion to take over the virtual stage.
Yeah, am I audible and visible?
Yes, you're audible and visible.
Yeah, so firstly, I'd like to introduce myself Riya Singh, and my slot number is 40, and I'll be speaking for the motion, in support of the motion. That is, that the House believes that the world needs to rid itself of religion. You can start the timer on my count of three. So 3, 2, and 1. Firstly, the difference between a cult and a religion, I'd like to explain. In a cult, there is a person at the top who knows that it's a scam. In religion, that person is already dead. Jokes apart, I would like to clarify the difference between religion and spirituality. Though they are often used interchangeably, there is a particular difference between them. At the every religion, at the starting of them, it started as, every religion started as a spiritual process, but in the process of being organized, they lost their basic character. Now, spirituality and religion, the difference we can understand is seeking and believing. Religious people believe that if you do something, or if you follow a certain lifestyle, you will go to heaven. And if you do not do those things, if you disobey them, you will go to hell. Now, have you ever met anyone who has seen either of those places? Another basic religious belief is peaceful coexistence. Yet it pains me to say that the world has suffered innumerable sufferings and killings in the name of religion itself. In the past, we had the Crusades, which went on for nearly 300 and so years. In the present, we have Islamic fundamentalist groups like ISIS, Al Qaeda, Taliban, and so on and so forth. Aren't they all killing and fighting in the name of religion? Next, religion believes. Next, I would like to say another very well-established belief is that religion provides ethics. But by this logic, the religious scholars and leaders should be the most ethical, but that is not the case. I would like to put light on a recent controversy wherein in Haridwar, a saint called for open extermination of an entire religious community. We can even hear imams in news saying to kill people in the name of religion. Aren't they all religious? So I say that we all leave the bigotry of religion itself. Now, the next thing is, apart from intra-religious conflicts, there are inter-religious conflicts as well. In one religion itself, we have, in Hinduism, we have caste hierarchy, and then in Muslim, we have Shias and Sunnis.
Your time's up.
Lastly, I'm sorry, I'll just conclude. My point is that in a society, we need to get rid of religion because we do not need its ignorance, its hatred, and its bigotry. If we leave religion, we have a society where we have one less thing to kill for and one less thing to divide the people. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'd like to call slot number 35 for the interjection.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. So the speaker, you were speaking that religion is being that religions lost their moral values in the course of evolution. So why don't you think that it would be better to bring back those moral values in the religion than to eradicate the religions baselessly?
Yes. So if you are Yes. If you are referring to religion in its original form, that is not religion, that is spirituality. There's a difference between religion and spirituality. Religion is always bad. I'll cite you an example. Religious scripture, we have in Hinduism, we have religious scripture of Rig Ved. In Rig Ved, though it is disputed, but it is mentioned to eat beef or to kill animals. We have Ashwamedh Yag and various yajnas in which animals are killed and even the meat is eaten. But later on, when we come to Brahmanical phase, Brahmins condemned this practice and they have said that the society needs to come up to a different form of religion, different form of Hinduism, that was Brahmanism, in which Brahmins put themselves on top and all the other sects lower than them. So I'll say that there is no need to go back to the moral values of religion because religion in itself is a bad thing. I think what we need is to go back to spirituality and get rid of ourselves with religion. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Now I'd like to call the participant speaking against the motion.
I would like to ask, am I clearly visible and audible?
Yes, you're audible and visible.
All right. So first I'll introduce myself. Good evening, everybody. I am Madhurika Singh and my slot is 40 and today I'm speaking against the motion. The house believes that the world does not need religion. So I'll be starting in the count of 3. So 1, 2, and 3. What are people with no religion called? Atheists, probably. Well, ironically, they are the ones talking the most about God. Anyways, jokes apart, dear panel, I would like to begin from where my partner left, that religion leads to division of people. Well, I would counter that by stating that religion is universal. Different religions are just like vessels of different forms, wherein the water is poured. Though these vessels might appear to be different, but the point is that they all contain the same water. And here, water is a metaphor for God. In other words, different religions are just like different roads, which eventually lead to the same destination of seeking the truth. Now, coming back to the question of why do we need religion? Even an atheist conforms to the values of morality, trust, and faithfulness. But think of it. Have these values emerged out of the material world? Well, no, these values mark their genesis from religion, and these are the very values that distinguish us from an unruly beast. Well, one of the opposition stated that religion instills fear in the minds of people. Hence, they don't need religion. Then I would like to ask them that. In a way, you are saying that you don't need a state as well, because even the state uses fear of retribution, so the society follows the right conduct. Lastly, I would conclude by saying that a religionless society is utopia, and you cannot dare to remove such an institution. That is the faith of 84% of the globe. Even if you try to remove religion, it will come back in some other form because it's human tendency that we need something to fear from, something to blame, and for everything which is beyond our control. This reminds me of a dialogue from a movie. You try to destroy religion and watch them make you the religion. Buddhism is a perfect example of this. Buddha was against religion throughout his life, but after his death, they concocted Buddhism. There I stand here vehemently opposing the motion. Thank you. Open for interjection.
Now I'd like to call slot number 28 for the interjection.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
So you said we do not need any religion, right?
I am supporting that we need religion.
Okay, so you believe that all the religion take us to the same path, like same, they are having a common goal.
They are different paths which take us to the same goal, the same destination.
Yeah, that's what I said. So how can you elaborate on it?
I mentioned it in my speech. In case you somehow,
can you
didn't hear it
elaborate
properly.
more?
Yeah, sure, I will. It's like even Swami Vivekanand had quoted that we are like a world is like a necklace, which is made up of pearls, wherein the different pearls are different religions, whereas the thread is the God, which ties us together. And also, I gave the example of vessels, wherein different religions are like different vessels, which are of different forms. Like something can be a jar, something can be a mug, but when we pour the water in it, they tend to appear in different forms because they are in different vessels. But the thing is that they all contain a similar material in that, which is water. And here the metaphor for water is connected to God. So my point is that even if we take different roads, that is different ways which we are taking in to attain spirituality or whatever enlightenment you say, we are ultimately leading to enlighten ourselves, which is an opening. Like if you consider religion as a superficial thing, then you are confining yourself to it like a barrier. But if you are seeing it as an opening.
Your time's up.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Adrika. So now now we have with us slot number 41, Astha Batra and Durga Shukla. I request the participants speaking for the motion to please go ahead.
I hope I'm clearly audible and visible.
Yes, you're audible and visible.
Thank you. Oh. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Durga, slot number 41, speaking for the motion. This house would rebuild the Berlin Wall. Please start the timer at the count of 3, 2, 1. To all my worthy opponents that are saying that the Berlin Wall was solely responsible for the divide, I would like to ask, how is it 32 years after the fall of the wall? GDP per capita income in the West in 2019 was 43,449 euros, while in the East it was 30,027 euros. Unemployment rate in the West is 5.1%, while in the East it is 7.1%. Population is declining in the East but increasing in the West. East Germany was detached from the German past. As mentioned earlier by a previous speaker, they were taught that they are the descendants of those who fought against the Nazis, whereas the West Germans were taught that they had inherited their legacy from the Nazis. Panel, this reunification didn't come cheap. Even after the collapse of the Berlin Wall, the East and the West Germans yet not fully accept each other. The East still despises the Western ideology. Then does it not mean that the iron curtain of the ideological divide still persists? One in eight Easterners and 1 in 4 Westerners still think that the country had not been reunified. We must not forget the tyranny of the wall, nor the love of freedom for which it had fallen. Still, many argue for reconstructing the portions of the much hated structure as a memorial, as a symbol of coexistence. Many lost their lives because of it, but still they want to see it rebuilt. It is the place where human history and people's individual lives coexisted. Moreover, separations yet remain to be overcome, even if the wall that cemented them is gone long ago. One of the victims that was trying to climb the east, that was trying to escape the east, was trying to climb the wall, when asked, does he think that the wall which almost cost him his life should have been preserved? Definitely yes, he answered. With this, I'd like to rest my case. Thank you.
I'd like to call slot number 25 for the interjection.
Thank you for recognizing. This is slot number 25, Rupa Dangwal. My question is that if like what are your take on this? Like if we rebuild Berlin Wall, won't it negate whatever development, whatever whatever progress has been done in terms of in terms of industrial or in terms of economic development, and also in terms of sentimental coming closer of west and east? So won't it negate all of that if we build a wall? Because building a wall is can be equated to discommunication, and discommunication will lead to more conflict. What's your take on this?
Please, could you I'm sorry, am I audible?
Was my question audible?
I'm sorry, I lost my network. Please, could you ask it again?
Okay, all right. So I was just saying that won't building rebuilding Berlin Wall take away all the progress which has been done till now? Like won't it because building a wall can be equated to discommunication, and discommunication will lead to further conflict. So what's your take on this?
I would like to reiterate the stats which I have put in my speech, that one out of 8 Easterners want the wall to be rebuilt. One out of 4 Westerners want it to be rebuilt. The income gap between the East and the West is drastically high. So it won't create any kind of unrest or something. It would like more of like bring harmony into it, because it's their own mutual it's with their own mutual understanding and their own consent that they want to build the wall. Also, I never advocated the fact that anyone should be shot on the wall, but as they themselves want the wall to be rebuilt, I would think that it should be done as the citizens themselves advocate. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I request the participant speaking against the motion to go ahead.
I guess I'm both audible and visible.
Yes, you're audible and visible.
I wish an astonishing day to one and all present here. I'm slot number 41, Astha Batra, and today's topic is this house would rebuild the Berlin Wall. I will be speaking against the motion. Please start the timer in 3, 2, 1. Today, this debate is about the rebuilding of a wall that separated Germany into separate East and West, communism and democracy, and most importantly, repression and freedom. Or I'd rather call it a sophisticated containment system in the East Berlin, a wall made by communists who confine their people like prisoners who had to illegally cross several layers like ammunitions, landmines, tripwires, automatic firing, etc., just to get free. Break the memories before they break you. The Berlin Wall seems to be a symbol of differentiation, confinement, separation, hatred, discrimination, and sorrow. Hundreds of people were killed while trying to flee East Germany. Would their families or acquaintances be happy to see that wall of suffering again? No, they won't. If something has a negative significance, then there's no point remembering it. This wall created a depressive environment in the East Germany and would always be a bad memory to the ones affected. The fall of Berlin Wall holds much more importance than the wall itself. Eastern Germany is today in a better situation than it has ever been. The fall of Berlin Wall brought far-reaching social and economic changes to the East Germany, and people on both the sides believe that this had a very positive impact on the standard of living of the people in the country. My worthy opponents might say that East Germany is still behind West in economic terms, but the former East has narrowed the gap with former West, and that means the development and betterment cannot be questioned. Germany is a progressive democracy, and a progressive nation would never like to go back into a conservatism model. Unification of Germany was a very big achievement which must be celebrated with pride. No matter if there are monuments or not, Berlin is exciting, lively, fresh place that it is, because the wall was there and it has been brought down. Says a young girl, which clears it all. Berlin will always attract people because coming down of the wall is what matters and not the wall. This wall was broken for mass benefit by the will of masses. To conclude, I say we are only as strong as we are united and as weak as we are divided. And this wall was one of the most painful divisions ever in the entire history. Thank you.
Since there are, I'd like to call slot number 10 for the interjection.
Thank you so much, Chair, for the recognition. My question to the speaker is quite straightforward. If you look back to the past, liberation of Bangladesh has been helpful for the country to prosper. Don't you think such a situation can also be replicated to the part of the Germany that we're talking about?
See, I'm not very much aware about the exact things, how it impacted Bangladesh, but when it comes to Germany, one part of Germany was really developed and it was capitalistic at that point of time. And now, and when they were divided, one was left like a containment. So doing that to the citizens, making them like prisoners, won't actually help. And even if it does, it's not required. When you're violating human rights, when people are not allowed to move from one place to another, and if they try, they are either shot or dogs or anything disgusting happens to them. So I don't think at that cost we can expect any better thing to happen to that country. And of course, if they are together, they can work better. As I said, unity is the strength, and that I think would really help. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'd like to call slot number 42, Sheetal Gothi and Sheetal. I request the participant speaking for the motion to take over the virtual stage.
जी धन्यवाद. क्या आप मुझे स्पष्ट रूप से देख पा सुन पा रहे हैं?
जी बिल्कुल.
समिति से निवेदन है कि कृपया नाम व विषय बताने के बाद समय शुरू करें। नाम शीतल गोठी, क्रम संख्या 42। सदन पर रखा गया विषय है, यह सदन मानता है कि आर्थिक विकास जलवायु परिवर्तन का समाधान है। मैं विषय के पक्ष में अपने तर्क प्रस्तुत करने जा रही हूँ। 3-2-1 के साथ शुरू करेंगे। शायद आपने समय पहले से शुरू कर दिया है। 3-2-1 के साथ शुरू करेंगे। 3-2-1। सदन की गरिमा को मेरा नमन। विषय के पक्ष में बात करने से पहले मैं विषय में अंकित मुख्य बिंदु और विषय के भार को स्पष्ट कर देना चाहती हूँ। आर्थिक विकास का आशय है अर्थव्यवस्था के सभी क्षेत्रों में उत्पादकता के स्तर में वृद्धि करना और राष्ट्रीय आय को बढ़ाकर निर्धनता को कम कर सामान्य जन के जीवन स्तर में सुधार करना। और जलवायु परिवर्तन का आशय है जलवायु में हो रहे दीर्घकालिक परिवर्तनों से। महोदय, मुझे लगता है कि मनुष्य का स्वभाव बहुत ही लालची होता है, क्योंकि आज एक मनुष्य जितने संसाधनों का प्रयोग कर रहा है, 1000 वर्ष पूर्व 1000 लोग मिलकर उतने संसाधनों का प्रयोग करता था। यानी कि जनसंख्या में निरंतर वृद्धि जलवायु परिवर्तन का एक सबसे प्रमुख कारण है। तो अगर हम देखें कि जनसंख्या को किस प्रकार से नियंत्रित करना है, तो मुझे इस ओर शिक्षा एक अच्छा विकल्प दिखता है, क्योंकि जब हम शिक्षा की बात करते हैं, जब महिलाएं पढ़ेंगी लिखेंगी तो उनका ज्यादातर समय स्कूल कॉलेजेस में बीतेगा, तो वह आसानी से मां नहीं बन पाएगी और आगे चलकर 84 लाख तक जनसंख्या में नियंत्रण हो सकता है। महोदय, अगर मैं बात करूं आर्थिक रूप से विकसित देशों की, तो मुझे एक समान कड़ी नजर आती है, जो कि है शिक्षा। यानी कि शिक्षा से आर्थिक विकास और शिक्षा से जलवायु परिवर्तन का समाधान निकाला जा सकता है। तो ऐसे आर्थिक रूप से विकसित देश जलवायु परिवर्तन कर सकते हैं। महोदय, अगर मैं बात करूं गरीब देशों की, तो गरीब देशों का अधिकतर ध्यान केंद्रित होता है आर्थिक रूप से विकसित होने पर, परंतु अगर मैं बात करूं आर्थिक रूप से विकसित या विकासशील देशों पर, तो उनका ध्यान कहीं ना कहीं पर्यावरण के संरक्षण पर भी होता है। अगर मैं उदाहरण के तौर पर देना चाहूँ भारत का, तो भारत का कहीं ना कहीं ध्यान पर्यावरण के संरक्षण पर भी होता है। उदाहरण के तौर पर देखते हैं, कृषि एवं जैव विविधता के संरक्षण के लिए अनुकूल तकनीक जैसे कि ड्रिप इरिगेशन और ऑर्गेनिक फार्मिंग का भारत में उपयोग किया गया। अगर मैं बात करूं ऊर्जा की, तो राष्ट्रीय जैव ईंधन नीति 2018 जीरो इफेक्ट जीरो डिफेक्ट के साथ इस ओर एक सतत प्रयास देखा गया है। अगर मैं बात करूं स्वच्छ भारत अभियान की, तो स्वच्छता के साथ साथ यहाँ पर स्वास्थ्य पर भी ध्यान अंकित किया गया है। यानी कि महोदय, आर्थिक विकास वह सीढ़ी है जिस पर चढ़े बिना जलवायु परिवर्तन का समाधान नहीं हो सकता। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। प्रश्न आमंत्रित है।
Slot number 38. You can go ahead with the interjection.
Yes. सवाल है कि आपने जो भी अभी प्रस्तुत किया, सूक्ष्म स्तर और अति सूक्ष्म स्तर पर अगर हम इसको ध्यान से देखें, तो कारखानों से निकलने वाला जो धुआं है वो तो जलवायु परिवर्तन को और खराब करेगा। तो इस पर आप क्या तर्ज देना चाहेंगे?
जी महोदय, आपके प्रश्न के लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। मेरा मानना है कि कहीं ना कहीं मतलब ये जो है ये पर्यावरण को नुकसान पहुंचा रहा है, लेकिन अब इस दिशा में कुछ ऐसे प्रयास किए जा रहे हैं जिससे कि पर्यावरण का संरक्षण हो सके। क्योंकि महोदय, यहाँ पर एक द्वंद्व पैदा होता है जहां पर मनुष्य विकास से भी मुकर नहीं सकता और पर्यावरण के संरक्षण से भी पीछे हट नहीं सकता। अगर मैं कबीर की भाषा में ये कहूँ, तो जो रोऊं तो बल घटे और जो हंसू तो राम रिसाए, मन ही माही बिसूरना जो धन काटी न जाए। यानी कि यहाँ पर इस प्रकार का द्वंद्व पैदा होता है जहां पर हम विकास से भी पीछे नहीं हट सकते और पर्यावरण की सुरक्षा भी जरूरी है। तो पर्यावरण की सुरक्षा विकास के साथ किस प्रकार से की जाए उस और अब आर्थिक रूप से विकसित देश कुछ न कुछ निरंतर इसके उपाय निकाल रहे हैं और मुझे उम्मीद है कि आगे चलकर विश्व एक ऐसा विश्व जरूर बना पाएगा जैसा कि हमने हमारे पूर्वजों से धरोहर में लिया था, वैसा ही हम हमारी आने वाली भावी पीढ़ियों को उपहार में दे पाए। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
Thank you. Now I request the participant speaking against the motion to go ahead. You can go ahead.
दे रही हूँ। क्या आप मुझे सुन पा रहे हैं?
जी
जी। सबसे पहले मैं अपना परिचय देना चाहूंगी। सभा की गरिमा को मेरा सादर नमस्कार। मैं शीतल, क्रम संख्या 42 दिए गए विषय के पूर्णता विपक्ष में अपना मत रखने जा रही हूँ। 3, 2, 1 स्टार्ट। महोदय, जिस प्रकार सावन के अंधे को सब कुछ हरा ही हरा दिखता है, ठीक उसी प्रकार मेरे पक्ष के वक्ताओं को भी सब कुछ ठीक पर नियंत्रण में दिख रहा है। वे शायद इस बात से अनभिज्ञ हैं कि 1750 में औद्योगिक विकास के साथ ही अवैध खनन, नदियों का प्रदूषण, वातावरण में जहरीली गैसों में वृद्धि, तापमान में वृद्धि, मनुष्य भूमि प्रदूषण, ग्लेशियर के पिघलने आदि से जलवायु परिवर्तन का खतरा नित्य बढ़ता जा रहा है। महोदय, भारत जैसे देश में जहां लगभग 36% जनसंख्या गरीब हो, वो मेरे पक्ष के वक्ताओं द्वारा सुझाए गए ड्रिप सिंचाई, टेस्ला जैसे इलेक्ट्रिक वाहनों या अत्याधुनिक तकनीकों का प्रयोग किस प्रकार से कर सकेंगे? विकासशील देशों में पर्यावरण विकास में से सदैव ही विकास को महत्व दिया जाता है तथा अर्थशास्त्र के अनुसार उत्पादक सदैव अपने लाभ को अधिकतम करने की चाह रखता है। इसलिए वह पर्यावरण पर अपना धन क्यों खर्च करेगा जिससे उन्हें कोई लाभ नहीं है? जब सरकार व पूंजीपति दोनों ही पर्यावरण पर ध्यान नहीं देंगे तो पर्यावरण की हालत शोचनीय हो जाएगी। प्रारंभ से ही कोयला व लकड़ियों के प्रयोग औद्योगिक क्षेत्र में किया जा रहा है, जो न केवल मीथेन, कार्बन जैसी गैस उत्पन्न करते हैं बल्कि ग्लोबल वार्मिंग का भी प्रमुख कारण है, जिससे आज दोनों ध्रुवों की बर्फ पिघल रही है, जिससे इंडोनेशिया की राजधानी जकार्ता जैसे कई क्षेत्र डूबने की कगार पर आ खड़े हुए हैं। महोदय, आर्थिक विकास मूलतः नव निर्माण पर केंद्रित है, जिसमें मुख्यतः सड़कों, पुलों, हाईवे, बांधों आदि का निर्माण शामिल है। एक और जहां इनके निर्माण के लिए हरे भरे क्षेत्र को काट दिया जाता है, वहीं ये बाद में सूखे या बाढ़ जैसे बाढ़ के कारण भी बनकर उभर रहे हैं। महोदय, 19वीं शताब्दी में 0.8 डिग्री के मुकाम से बढ़ता तापमान आज इस मुकाम पर पहुंच गया है कि केदारनाथ, चमोली जैसे स्थानों में ग्लेशियर के टूटने का कारण बनकर उभर रहा है। वहीं 1942 में धूमकोहरे की घटना हो या 1984 में भोपाल गैस त्रासदी हो या हाल ही में पेरू में तेल का रिसाव हो, तो इन सभी को नजरअंदाज नहीं किया जा सकता। अतः अंत में मैं यही कहूंगी कि जलवायु का परिवर्तन उसका समाधान तो नहीं बन सकता, परंतु भविष्य में इसको बढ़ा अवश्य सकता है। धन्यवाद। प्रश्न आमंत्रित है।
Now I request slot number 42 to ask the question.
जी, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। मेरा इनसे एक प्रश्न है कि जिस विश्व में लगभग 60% लोग गरीबी रेखा के नीचे आते हैं, वैसे विश्व में आप कैसे कह सकते हैं कि जो विकास है वो जरूरी नहीं है?
जी, प्रश्न के लिए धन्यवाद महोदय। जैसा कि आपने कहा कि जिस देश में जो है वो 39% जनसंख्या गरीबी रेखा के नीचे आती हो, वहाँ पे जो है वो विकास, क्योंकि यहाँ की जनसंख्या जो है वो अधिकतर इस बात के ऊपर ध्यान दे, यहाँ पे सरकारें जो है वो इस बात का ध्यान देती हैं कि किस प्रकार से जो है वो आर्थिक विकास किया जाए। जब आर्थिक विकास पर ध्यान दिया जाता है तो ये नहीं देखा जाता कि कितनी बड़ी मात्रा में पेड़ पौधों को काटा जा रहा है या संसाधनों का दोहन किया जा रहा है। ऐसी स्थिति में जब लोगों को रोजगार देने के लिए उद्योग लगाए जाते हैं या दूसरे अन्य चीजें अपनाई जाती हैं, तो उसके जरिए जो है वो प्रदूषण और अधिक बढ़ता है। इस स्थिति में जो है वो सरकार का मुख्य उद्देश्य जो है वो रोजगार होता है, व सरकार जो है वो सरकार जो है वो अपनी गरीबी को दूर करने का प्रयत्न करती है। ऐसे में वो पर्यावरण पर ध्यान नहीं दे पाती। आशा करती हूँ महोदय कि आपको आपके प्रश्न का उत्तर मिला होगा। धन्यवाद।
Thank you. Now I'd like to call slot number 43, Dev, Khokhar and Niharika. I request the participant speaking for the motion. You can start.
Am I perfectly audible and visible?
Yes, you are perfectly audible and visible.
Okay, I'll just tell about myself. So my name is Dev Khokhar and I'll be speaking for the motion on the topic that nepotism is a pseudo privilege. So I'll start in 3, 2, 1. So we all know that, you know, we don't have a say in whether we will be born in a rich family or a not so rich family. So how can we tag or blame a person who is born into a rich family? How can we just tag that, you know, he has got everything from his father and he has not achieved anything in his own life? We have seen, see, what I feel is that, you know, these kind of kids who have their parents from high political importance, I feel that they have it is not a privilege for them, rather it's rather a very high challenge for them, because they have this barrier that he might have got this done by his father. They have to they have to jump that barrier and then you know, show the world that they themselves are also capable of doing that thing. So see, there have been, I'm not saying that, you know, it is always it's never a privilege. Yes, it's a privilege for those. It just gives a chance to the person, and then the chance is given to the person, and then it's further it's his capability, it's his talent in which he has to capitalize and work on it. We have examples of Rahul Gandhi, Abhishek Bachchan, as well as Sonakshi Sinha. These people are nothing without their surnames, but at the same time we have people like Akhilesh Yadav. We have people like Stuart Broad, who are, even after having, you know, such background, they got the they got the platform to work upon it, but also it was their sublime talent that has given them, such importance in the world. Further, I also believe that nepotism, it is not a privilege but a necessity if we talk in terms of business. In a business, if I am a businessman, I would obviously give a chance to some person who is more trustworthy to me, because it's business is all about trust, and trust can be developed between only two people if they are connected in some way. So in all, I just want to say that it is practiced at all levels, and nepotism is a pseudo privilege. Thank you.
I'd like to ask slot number 36 to go ahead. You can go ahead with the interjection.
Hello, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Sir, you and along with you, some previous speakers in the past have repeatedly said that the very example of Akhilesh Yadav is an example of justifying the very ability of one's that they have. But the premise of this argument remains a very simple question, that even if you are justifying or even if you are promoting the very qualities of Mr. Akhilesh Yadav, do you really think that there were some previous incidents in the past where he was given a parallel opportunity along with many other peoples and he outpowered them? Because as far as the idea on the example of Akhilesh Yadav is considered, he belonged to a party of which he got the chain, and after that he was elected the CM. So don't you think you are just making your own arguments very volatile by using Akhilesh Yadav as a testament to your points?
Let's just start the timer. So that was a very good question, Sudeep. I very well respect your points, but at the same time, I would also like to say that that is the problem with the world today. The world is seeing the negativity, and people like you feel that it is something that he has insisted and got from his father. But that's not exactly the case. There's Dipendra Hooda in my own state of Haryana as well. There's Akhilesh Yadav. These people, they were given the chance, but obviously we are a democratic nation. In our own country, the people give vote to a person only when they feel that the person is capable. You may say that Akhilesh Yadav got a vote in the names of his father, but that's not exactly true. He has been winning at least his seat since the time he started these elections. Further, I also believe that this is the major negativity of a person, that they feel that the rich people getting more opportunities, and when they capitalize on it, they say that it's rather luck or a privilege that they were born in a rich family. Thank you.
With the permission of chair, may I cross question the speaker?
No, there's no cross questioning allowed.
Very well.
I request the participant speaking against the motion to please take over the virtual seat.
If I am audible and visible.
Yes, you're audible as well as visible.
So first of all, I would be introducing myself. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Niharika, slot number 43. The motion is nepotism is a pseudo privilege, and I will be speaking against the motion. So you can start the timer in 3, 2, 1. We live in a world of competition, a world where every job, every opportunity, and every chance has to be earned by hard work. Yet there are many lucky people for whom all of this is just a piece of cake. First of all, nepotism in most of the cases results someone undeserving or underqualified getting an opportunity for which the other person might have been striving for years. Now, this situation results in two outcomes. The first outcome is that the unlucky ones, or the ones who couldn't get their chance, they feel angered and frustrated. They ultimately give up, for it has been imprinted upon their minds that no matter how much they try, they'll never be the privileged ones. The second outcome is that the lucky ones, they do not feel any need to work out of their comfort zones. This is because they have been assured of the fact that their future is secure. Now, this results in wastage of all the assets and resources that are under their domain. Secondly, nepotism not just deprives the worthy of the opportunity, it deprives the society as a whole of a better growth or development that could have been achieved had there been a fair competition. This is because competition not just pushes individuals to improve their skills, it thus pushes them to expand their capabilities and ultimately as a whole present a better set to choose from among these candidates. Now, thirdly, nepotism promotes a culture of hierarchy. It establishes a network of classes. The classes being the ruling class and the working class. The ruling, for they have a dominance because of their position, power, and status. And the working, because they are the ones putting in all the hard work and all the effort to secure the position they still have under the fear of losing it due to nepotism. Lastly, I would like to conclude by saying that nepotism is nothing but cancer, which if left unchecked will become incurable. Thank you.
Now I'd like to call slot number 42 for the interjection.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Ma'am, my question to you is that you said that you are in the favor of the pseudo privilege of nepotism. So I want to ask you that if I talk about Bollywood specifically, so some people which do hard works, and if they do not succeed in that, so they do risk their lives sometimes. So don't you think that this privilege is, is a very is causing some ill effects there also?
I'm sorry, could you just please repeat? Am I audible?
Yes,
Excuse
you're
me?
audible.
Yeah, could you just please repeat the question once again?
Slot number 42.
Can I ask the question? Slot 38.
I think she is taking her question back.
Okay, slot 38, go ahead.
Yes. So Niharika, as you have mentioned, a very factual argument I would like to give you that in the recent economic forum speech, Mr. Modi, who is not from a nepotism background, he forgot his speech due to a teleprompter malfunction. So does it consider that hard work and talent, he is not educated in English specifically, and it represented in front of the world as negative for India? How will you defend this line?
So thank you for the question. You can start the timer in 3, 2, 1. So as far as I could interpret your question, first of all, I would like to pinpoint that I don't believe that it was quite related to nepotism. What your question, what you wanted to ask was the fact that if a person who is not well versed in English or a language and is still being a representative of a non-nepotic society, then is that particular person's fault if he is kind of not able to represent himself among the society. But I believe that this particular thing has nothing to do with nepotism. What if someone who had come from a family or a hierarchy that is nepotic, and what if that particular person couldn't have been able to represent himself? Then would you have asked the same question? So I think that's a very subjective, or you could say a very personal kind of thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'd like to call slot number 44, Ethel Rose Thomas and Nirmala Jensen. I request the participants speaking for the motion to you.
Okay, am I visible and audible?
Yes, you're audible and visible.
Okay, thank you. So I'll introduce myself. Myself, Nirmala Jensen. Slot number 44. I'm speaking for the motion. This House believes the eviction of Palestinian families in East Jerusalem is regretful. Okay, you may begin in 3. 3, 2, 1. For decades, Jerusalem has been the bone of contention between Israel and Palestine. Israel captured Jerusalem from Jordan in 1967 Six Days War, and since then has been evicting the Palestinians living in the area, which is regretful. I wish to support my claim, highlighting 3 points. Firstly, as the UN has rightly pointed out, Israeli settlement in East Jerusalem has no legal validity, and it constitutes a downright violation of the international law. The state of Israel is founded upon ethnic cleansing and forced evictions. When historical Palestine was destroyed and was replaced by the new state, the forced evictions have been the mechanism and modus operandi of the new Israeli nation building. What we are witnessing today in East Jerusalem is nothing but the forced expulsion of the Palestinians to facilitate the Judaization of the urban environment. Secondly, I'd like to highlight the humanitarian aspect. The forced evictions are leading to a whole range of human rights violations, which include land confiscation, resource alienation, etc., which further mounts up to racial and political discrimination. Thirdly, my final point is that the forced eviction just precludes any chance of a future of peace where these both states exist side by side in peace and security. As the Palestinian government has rightly made it clear, they would not be ready for any compromise formula of Palestinian state building in which until and unless the East Jerusalem is made as their capital. So with the violence escalating due to
Your time's up.
Okay, so I like to conclude that there is no chance for any future peace until and unless there is an end to these forced evictions. Thank you.
Since there are no interjections, I'd like to call the participant speaking against the motion. You may start speaking.
Just a second. Oh. Okay. Am I clearly audible and visible?
Yes, you're audible as well as visible.
Okay, thank you. So I'll just introduce myself. I'm Ethel Rose Thomas, slot number 44, speaking against the motion being, this House believes the eviction of Palestinian families in East Jerusalem was regretful. So I'll begin in a count of 3. 3, 2, 1. Greetings, panel. I disagree with the motion being debated, and I will prove to the House that the eviction of Palestinian families in East Jerusalem was not at all regretful. Panel, first of all, I'd like to rebut to one of the major points which was raised by the proposition, which is something related to the so-called humanitarian approach. Panel, let me just ask you, how can someone just go ahead and justify and support the Palestine on the basis of humanitarian approach when we can clearly observe that there have been attacks on Israel, which has also caused a lot of casualties, a lot of deaths, and have left a lot of people homeless? Now, can that be called as non-humanitarian? Even the speaker here had earlier mentioned that when someone does something, the next person reacts to it, and also that this is not a matter of discussion here. Here, I wish to contradict that if Palestinian families have been evicted, there has been a triggering incident that has happened prior to it. It is true that in the early 1970s, the Jewish agencies started demanding the Palestinian families to leave the land. But it also must be understood that these houses sat on the land which was owned by the Jewish communities that they had purchased in 1885 when Jews were migrating to the historic Palestine that was part of the Ottoman Empire. Now, in 1982, the Palestinian residents had signed an agreement with accepting the Jewish ownership of the land while being allowed to live there as protected tenants. Now, the homes of Palestinian families were situated in a complex known as the Tomb of Simeon the Just, where a high priest was buried. Now, the court also states that the current residents there, that is the Palestinians, have failed to pay the required amount of rent for several years. They have also clearly stated that they have not disproved the claims of the Jewish Israelis to the property. The Israeli court gave the families an extra 2 days to reach an agreement, but that proved impossible. And then only did the Israeli force come into action and carried out the forces of eviction. And this clearly shows that the act of evicting Palestinian families was fair enough. With this, I rest my case, proud to oppose.
Thank you. Now I'd like to call slot number 12 for the interjection.
Thank you so much. So, ma'am, you talked about some historical precedences, right? That how Israelis were also subjected to violence, Jews were also subjected to violence. That I completely take cognizance of. But one question, ma'am, do you feel it is justified to perpetuate the same historical incidents, that too uniformly across the communities who are innocent? Do you treat that as justice?
Okay. So can I begin my answer? Okay. Thank you, ma'am, for the question. So first of all, I'd like to say that this is not actually, I can I just restart? Okay. So thank you, ma'am, for the question. So yes, I don't say that the ones who are innocent have to be the ones who are bearing the burden of all these happening here. And you can't just go ahead and say that the Israelis, the ones who are innocent, have been the ones who are receiving the all the things that were thank you.
Thank you. Now I'd like to call slot number 45, Location Pile. I request the participant speaking for the motion, you may take over the virtual stage.
Am I audible and visible?
Yes, you're audible as well as visible.
Well, before moving to the introduction part, Anchor, I'd like to thank all the OC members for organizing this event, and kudos to all the worthy participants, and of course the judges for providing this platform. Thank you very much. Moving ahead, greetings of the day. I, Payal Sharma, slot number 45, going to propose the motion. This house believes that change is not progress. I'll be starting with the countdown of 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Panel, I'd like to start by putting off this silence into a certain perception. In this elegant assessment of the human circumstance, I urge all of us to step back from the gory headlines and the prophecies of the doom and believe that change is not progress, rather it's a price for it. Today, we are bombarded with the calls for change. If change is an improvement over the status. Well, progress is not the result of the cosmic force. In fact, it's the gift of the enlightenment, the conviction, the reason, that reason can enhance the human flourishing. Far from being a naive hope, the enlightenment we now know today has worked. Improvement, progress, growth are itself the positive words. But talking about change is the process of replacing something with something new or different. That could either be negative or positive. People are learning new things like every single minute. Panel, this becomes hard, or I should say difficult, to decide whether they are progressing or changing. In fact, I have met several people who try to put up the wall so others don't see how what they truly are. If these changes aren't for the betterment of yourself and for those who are there in your life, then this is the high time to experience the progress. Panel, with the intellectual and literary flair, I'd like to put the fact that there is a line that all people miss out, and that is direction in which we move, and that somehow decides the journey as well as the destination. Do I firmly believe the fact that progress doesn't promise that all aspects of the life improve at the same pace, or I should say at the same time, but choosing progress would be worth, because this is better than the regret and the regression. Having said that, I proudly propose the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'd like to call slot number 10 for the interjection.
Thank you so much, Chair, for the recognition. My question to the speaker is quite straightforward. time is something which doesn't stop for anyone. So even if a person is continuously being facing changes and challenges, don't you think that is how the part of the way of life is? With every change, there is some sort of challenges, a new sort of learning. Don't you think that is what is intrinsic to life? How can you then not correlate? Why is always progress related to something which we desire? That's my question.
Thank you very much. Progress is not something that we desire, but it is the demand of the time that we change. And when we talk about progress is something that adds something to our ability or to our things. Okay. And when we talk about change could either be negative or positive. And when we're talking about progress, if the change is impacting a large society, a large mass, and it affects them in a positive sense, then that is what requires, this is the demand of the time. So I think I'm fairly justified in my inferences that change is something that could last for a short period of time, but progress is something that keeps on going on, that adds something to our ability. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Payal. Now I request the participant speaking against the motion to take over the virtual stage.
I think I'm clearly visible and audible.
Yes, you are clearly audible and visible.
So you can start the counter when I will be saying the name of the topic. Is it okay?
Yes.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. So our great Sri Lord Krishna had said that change is the law of the universe. What you think of as that is indeed life. In one instance, you can be a millionaire, or in other instance, you can be steeped in poverty. A very good evening to all present here. My name is Lokesh, and today I'm going to give my views against the motion that this house does not believe change is a progress. We can classify change in various types. Change in the technology or some technological advancements is one, but on the other hand, change that occurs with time to come out from an undesirable situation is the other. Instead of giving theoretical ideas, I would be giving 3 real-time examples from different rooms in support of my opinion. The journey from Stone Age to an age of artificial intelligence was though interesting. The journey from being barefoot to sit in a driverless car is definitely a progress. And what it is a technological change. See, as we all are well aware and experienced with technology, that's why we can easily do our essential tasks and learning at current time. But in the era of 1920, people had faced that pandemic at that time. But at that time, online learning was not feasible. Isn't it a progress? It is. Moreover, according to the report, lakhs of women are facing respiratory health diseases due to mud chula. But after the invention or execution of LPG cylinders, cases of those diseases are reducing. Even according to Technology and Innovation Report 2021, frontier technologies are essential for sustainable development, but they also could accentuate initial inequalities. For once, let's go to Dwapar Yug. During the Battle of Kurukshetra, when Arjun gets hesitated to shed blood of his relatives, Sri Krishna convinced him, saying that this will bring a lot of glory to world and it will be an end of cruelness and starting and beginning of kindness. And that was definitely a progress and for Aryabhatta's pupil. Now let's know a little about national geographical changes. At the time of independence, as 562 provinces gave their states to the nation, all internal consequences are finished, such as an easy entrance for invaders, due to which continuing the diversity of states, that's why we can proudly say that India is the country with unity in diversity. I would like to end by saying one of the best quotes given by Winston Churchill: to improve is to change, to be perfect is to change often. Thank you.
Now I'd like to call slot number 29 for the interjection.
Okay, sir. Am I audible to you?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay. So, sir, you mentioned about technology in your speech. Sir, I would like to ask you on this particular parameter that how do you call technology a progress when the technology in itself can create a nuisance when it comes to your driving or environment?
Okay, you can start the counter on the count of three. 3, 2, 1. Okay. I agrees with your point that technology with the progress, it also have some nuisance created. For example, for a once, let's take an example of a mobile phone. when these inventions or evolutions are done, they are done for the betterment of mankind. For example, nowadays, due to the by various reports, it has been said that more than 80% mobile usage is for the social network, social sites. But so it is not because of the change that these nuisance are created. It is created because of the wrong mindset of people. If they have used the mobile phones or some means whatever technology came, if they have used it in a better way, then it's definitely a progress. Thank you. I hope I cleared your question. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Competing at the highest level is not about winning. It is about preparation, courage, understanding, and nurturing your heart. Winning is the result. We thank all the participants for making this event a huge success. I would now like to ask the judges for their words of wisdom. Tanisha, ma'am.
I think there must be some network issue. Ma'am was facing network issues few minutes back. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
Yeah, I think Anisha ma'am was facing some network issues few minutes back, so she might not be able to give a feedback. Anyway, guys, I'll give my feedback. So this was one of the best competitions I've ever judged or I've ever attended, because it is going to be very tough for me and for Tanisha ma'am as well to find one best speaker or one best team or runner up for that matter. So kudos to all the participants for such a good sport and such a good competition. And I mean, each and every team, each and every speaker had something different to say with such diverse topics. So yeah, a very, very well competition put up there. So all the best to everybody. And as I said, it would be very hard for us to find one best speaker or one, some of the best people out of all these great speeches today we had. But yeah, we'll try our best to do justice. And yeah, thank you and all the best.
Thank you, ma'am. We'd like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to both the judges. Now, it is my humble request to everyone to turn their videos on so that we can capture this moment. Thank you. Thank you guys for being with us today. The results for Vantage will be announced on our Instagram handle, so make sure you follow us there. Let's end this meeting with the promise of never stopping our strive for learning, expressing, and being relentlessly true to ourselves. Once again, thank you everyone for being here today. Stay safe until next time.